Welcome to Jack and Jockeys with
And
Justin.
me.
Hey, we're
Hey.
back.
And
Uh,
better than ever?
and better than ever, yeah.
We'll see.
We're here to talk about season 3, episode 8 of Showtime's Yellowjackets called A Normal Boring Life.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a theme for this
Also
week.
known by me as Ultimate Vindication.
Um, I just wanted to give a quick shout out. May I do a shout
Oh,
out? Are those
yeah.
still allowed?
As far as I know.
I just want to give a shout out to old school lost podcaster
Ah.
um Heath Santazzo, also known as Heath Solo from the old days, co-host of Lost Revisited Now, frequent guest on such podcasts as the Lost Mythos Theory Cast, and anyway,
Wow.
um,
What
it
a
was it
resume.
was a whole world, and uh, uh, yeah, there was not a collaboration, but anyway, just to say, he left a review on Apple Podcasts, and he mentioned that the Lost references were entirely appropriate, so I can't appreciate that more.
Speaking of vindication.
Um, and so I just wanted to say thanks for that. And also he requested that Claude do a cameo, and your request has been passed along. I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but Claude hasn't seen any of season 3 as of the last time we communicated, which wasn't that long ago. So there's time to catch up. It might happen, it might not. But anyway, just know your request was heard,
It's
and
been passed along the ladder.
yeah, and I did what I could. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Claude will appear again in some form someday, but
Pure
yeah,
light and
the
energy.
old lost podcasting days are very special for me. So I do appreciate that there's still people around from those days. Um,
Yeah.
anyway,
Thanks, man.
uh, so um, uh,
Yep.
shall we dive in here? So
Let's dive
I
in.
just want to say a couple things about
Okay.
previously on here. Not complaints this time, but really just like I realized in the episode that there were things that happened in the last episode that either I didn't really pay much attention to or that I didn't quite interpret correctly. So the first thing was when Cody shoots Melissa with the arrow, and she like yells to Shauna, like, Shauna, don't leave me. And then Shauna's like, okay, Mari, you take care of that, and I'm going, so
Yeah.
like I didn't really worry
I didn't
about would
either.
that be significant or not.
I didn't either. It happened so fast, and it makes total sense that that would have thematic significance as we see adult Shauna through this whole story arc. You know, using deceit to abandon her family, telling them that they'll be safer if they, stay there in this hotel room while she goes off and does whatever vendetta she's looking to do.
I
I didn't catch it either, but it's clearly a parallel.
Yeah, I didn't even feel the need to mention it because, like, in my head, yeah, like my focus in that scene was on, like Cody and Hannah and the pursuit, and like, Shauna like threatens Mari, like if she dies, you die, and there's some business with them. Like, like I don't know, that was the stuff I just didn't. That little line like didn't. It just went right over my head. But when they played it again, I was like, oh.
But maybe threatening people is just Shauna's love language.
Does feel that way. And then the other thing was that scene with Cody and Travis and Aquila when he's like, take us with you. Like, when he said that, I really thought he meant take all of us with you. I really didn't think he was trying to pull a close your ears, JP Morgan. I didn't think he was trying to pull a Jack from season 3 getting on the sub. Like, I'm out of here, y'all. I'll send back rescue. Okay. I didn't forget
Yeah.
about you, but I'm gonna go first. So, like, sorry.
I love his country accent you've adopted. Yeah, I didn't either. And it's, well, we'll talk about it, but Travis is strange in these exchange. Not that I think that he wouldn't have done his best to send a search party back for them. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a little questionable.
But I think there's I mean, yeah, it's questionable for sure. I found it more questionable when Jack did it because he was the
Well, yeah, I
ostensible
mean
leader.
right,
Um
right.
but
And right. I mean, I think we have every reason to believe that the island, even he at that time, should have known that the island would maybe be harder to find than this
for sure.
spot in the
Yeah,
woods.
that's literally in Canada.
Austin
Um
can't. How big could it possibly be?
I mean, it's a big place, but it's also not infinitely big. So anyway, they know some radius at
If you
least.
were listening to a podcast and they said that line, you would rant on and on about how the ocean is also not infinitely big.
Ocean's bigger than the land, but it's fair point. Uh, I was just gonna say that I feel like I don't know, I buy into it because it's not it's a little bit between the lines, but I feel like the thing Travis is going into here is a sense of, skepticism about like all this mystical bullshit, but also like a sense of how, he was freaked out about force feeding Coach Ben, like a sense of how like out of control they've all gotten, and that like
Yeah,
he doesn't really have any ability to stop that. And like, because like if you think about the way this episode ends, it seems like it validates that, yeah, maybe it would have been
definitely.
better. And it's really Aquila who kind of betrays him.
Yeah.
And so, but in the long run, it's like, I don't know. I think there's some
Yeah,
I feel more supportive of his doing that than I did of Jack,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they're like bad at this point.
Well, when Jack does it, it's like he's turning his back on this for like this petty reason of like, because you chose a different
Oh
boy.
God, I
But with
know.
this,
Oh
it's
God,
like
don't remind
if
me.
he takes Cody back there, who's to say Shauna's not going to kill him? I mean, Cody. And then,
Yeah,
and as you point out, the way the episode ends, you know, like there was a powerful enough force to not even try to get rescued. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I think he did the right thing. I don't know, Akila's actions, oof,
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of disappointed.
not bueno.
Because like I did feel like she was having her doubts, but she kind of took a stand and
Yeah, because earlier on in the episode, when you realize she's trying to, attract them to stop this rescue pursuit, it isn't necessarily the case that she doesn't want them to be rescued, just that she doesn't want to leave with Cody without the rest of the Yellowjackets. But then in the end, she sides with Lottie.
yeah, she also talks about the Ben thing, but like the bridge vision and all that. Um, but like also wasn't more than 3 episodes ago that she told Travis, "You're the only one I can trust."
Yeah, they forgot about that
And then she
line.
turns her back on his ass so hard. It's
Yeah, they
like,
forgot about that line.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it was weird to me at the time, but I'm like, you tell us that, I'm gonna believe you. Like, don't have her say that if it's not true.
Yeah, they had their reason they wanted to say that because it was dramatic. It made because the viewer knew, but yeah, then they immediately didn't. Well, once they got the punch out of the line, they didn't need it
They
anymore.
walked it
They
back, as the
walked
kids
this, yeah.
say. So yeah, anyway, those are the things. Obviously they're gonna come up through the course, but it was just watching, like, sometimes the way they show stuff in the previous time just gives you a clue about what matters that like just watching the episode doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that those two really stood out because I didn't expect them to play, especially Shauna Don't Leave Me. Like that one I was like, oh, was that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right. So, are you ready to start the actual scenes?
Let's.
All right. So we start off with Shauna's dream. Starting off with the dream sequence. I don't know, this is weird, but that's what they did.
It's weird.
She's like ringing up meat at a grocery store for Jackie. And Jackie says she had so much potential but little to show for it. The meat packages suddenly have like hands and like body parts in them. And then
Human body parts. Yeah.
yeah, human body parts. Sorry, I'm human biased. Wow. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyway, Shauna says she hates being called Shipman, and Jackie says, "Why didn't you say something?" Shauna says, "Is this what my life will look like?" And Jackie says, "How should I know? I'm dead." And then the light flickers, and we see some moths inside the light fixture. And Jackie says they're drawn to the light, and you should have known better. And that's where we transition out of this dream sequence.
Yeah, I'm nodding
Um,
slowly and meaningfully, meaning I don't know the significance of this dream sequence.
I'm
But then
confused.
we see that moth later, same kind of moth.
That's why I'm confused. I'll tell. I mean, it comes up along the way, but like the way they frame this, just so you know, spoiler alert, y'all. We're about to cut to present day Shauna waking up in the van,
Yeah,
and
so
from
the suggestion is that this was adult Shauna's dream.
exactly, right? That's the, yeah. I mean, that's what normal film language tells you.
Yeah,
If you have a dream sequence and you cut to someone waking up, the implication is it was their dream. Now, of
yeah,
course, you don't have to do that, but like that's what we're invited to believe.
yeah.
And like in a certain way, it makes sense, you know? But then, like, is this what my life will look like? It's like, it's weird to have a dream where you already know what your life looked like, and then the other thing that was weird to me is there's a reference to this later that's in the past. You know, they even cut to a vision of the fluorescent light fixture with the moths in it.
Yeah, which I don't like that because I suspect they just did that so that viewers made
That's
that
what I
connection.
wondered. Was it just for us, or are
Um,
we supposed to, then I was like, oh, did did teen Shauna have that dream and adult Shauna had it later? Like, I don't know. I just got real confused what they were trying to say there. But yeah, I think what you're saying might be right. I just found it strange.
yeah, so does that moth mean anything is a question that I'm wondering. If the moth means something, like we'll need to get more on the moth. Could it possibly be connected with Akila's vision later in this episode of the decimated crops? Like if she
All
if the
right.
moth is just actually a moth, not a vision in the later scene, in the
Yeah.
tent or whatever, the shelter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Uh,
HUD.
yeah, I don't know. Moth question mark.
Question mark. Yeah, it's weird because it's not an image they've used before.
Right.
So it makes me think there's something coming. Like it reminds me of the wolf thing in season one.
We need a mothologist. Oh, the wolf thing. Yeah.
It feels like sometimes when they do this is because there's something coming
Yeah.
in the past that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
It is weird that she sees it even in this episode. But I'm just wondering if there's, yeah, I don't know, some moth thing coming. I don't know. It's weird. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's just a metaphor. I really don't know.
Oh man.
They're drawn to the light, like Hannah and Edwin and Cody were drawn to the light. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're
You
trying to
should have
say.
known
You
better,
should have known
Cameron.
better.
Should have
Yeah.
known better. So if if the if the dream is indeed the dream of adult Shauna, which is my assumption,
Hmm.
um the you should have known better, they're drawn to the light thing. I mean, she knows that she's outside of Melissa's house. Um, right? Or she
That,
just knows she's outside of
she
Alex's
knows she's outside
house.
of Alice's house.
Okay.
I think that
She know
is
okay.
correct. Yeah. I think she
So
doesn't actually know about Melissa yet.
you should have known better.
I mean, she clearly suspected Melissa
Yeah.
from the earlier scene, but I don't think she expected her to be in that house.
Whereas I did.
Well, you certainly did. Did you say total vindication
I
yet?
did. But I feel that I didn't amp that up enough because, well, I'll wait.
We will.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there in the next
Question
scene.
mark on the dream. We'll come back to those moths, and we'll
Yeah,
come back to you should have known better.
it's a weird thing to.
Was
It's
the I you should have known better. I guess the thing that I was gonna say earlier, the does the you should have known better relate to the line later in the episode, the only way to guarantee that your secret is safe is to be the last one standing, or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Anyhow.
yeah. Yeah, so well, like I said, yeah, we'll get one opportunity to revisit this thing later. Okay, so yeah, present day, Shauna wakes up in the car from last week. I don't think it's been a week, but anyway, it's been like overnight. Like she fell asleep in there, which I thought was weird, but whatever.
Yeah.
Uh
They definitely play it like she's gonna break in
yeah,
the
they
night
they
before,
totally did. It was super ominous, but I
Yeah,
guess I
TV show
guess
stuff
there's a
like that.
logic to whatever.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, no. What I'm about to say makes no sense. Anyway, she takes the knife out of the sheath or scabbard and puts it up her sleeve, and then gets out of the car and then sneaks into the house. We see a child's drawings and we hear some voices, and Shauna hides behind a door and spies on them. It's
TV and movies are full of these doors that have those slats so you can spy
yeah,
out of them. I've never had a door like
yeah,
that.
it's in Blue Velvet too. Although in that case, it's a closet. So whenever I see it, I assume it's a closet because I have seen a lot of
Was this in a
closets.
closet or
It
in
was
another
definitely
room?
not a closet. It was just another room.
Oh, that's weird.
It was very clear from the way they shoot it that yeah, she was just in an adjoining room that was empty, and but it just happened to have a door like that so she could look through.
How
But I think it works
terribly
better if it's a
convenient.
closet, personally. Sorry, what did you say?
I said how terribly convenient.
Indeed. Okay. It's Alex and her daughter. And as the subtitles helpfully tell us, if the backwards hat isn't enough, Melissa!
Yeah,
I was so.
that is so bogus. When I saw that, I was like, we have got to stop watching with the subtitles.
I like the subtitles because I don't like missing things, but it's like this was an example where like y'all fucked up. You shouldn't have put that. It if you read a script, and I know that's not what they do, but if you read a script like in a situation like this, what they do is they'll say like,
Woman's
woman
voice.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. And then when it's revealed who it is, then they put the name in,
Yeah.
like well, whatever. I don't need to give examples, but you get the point. Okay. They should have done that, but they didn't. So anyway, it's Melissa. Alex calls her Kelly as she and the daughter leave, and we learn that they're married. Melissa gets a knife and calls out Shauna, not knowing it's Shauna, but knowing someone's there with some threats. You don't know who you're dealing with or whatever, something like that. Shauna reveals herself. Melissa's surprised. And Shauna asks, "What are you doing alive?" And that's where we go
Bum
into
bum.
credits.
Yeah, but
we
we
will
already knew. Yeah. Anyway.
we will learn that later.
Okay, so when we were first introduced to this tape, the tape, this whole thing, oh, Melissa got close with Hannah.
Yep.
This was my prediction because they tell us that Alex was a teenage pregnancy, so they're around the same age. She goes and finds her after they get back to real life, and they fall in love and begin a relationship. I did not predict um the that Alex didn't allegedly that Alex hasn't heard the tape. That was
Yeah.
not my prediction.
I didn't think that either. I
But
assumed they were
otherwise, ding ding
collaborating.
ding.
I was calling her a collaborator the whole time. Well, I was saying it was Alex and a Yellowjackets collaborator, but actually, no, it was just the Yellowjackets
He's
collaborator, i.e., the Yellowjacket
working
acting
solo.
alone. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So,
Individual agent.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll learn more about this situation later. But are you, shall we move forward?
Hmm.
Okay. So after the credits, Shauna says, "Put the knife down."
Oh
Melissa,
well, like Hillary Swank.
Yeah, it's Hillary Swank.
Yeah, everybody, I had forgotten, but everybody else has been waiting.
They were obsessed with it. It was like nonstop Hillary Swank watch every week. Like, oh my god, another episode with no Hillary Swank. Where's Hillary
Oh,
Swank?
that was the other side of the phone call about who, like, can you describe the person who picked up the phone? You know, she actually looked a lot like Academy Award winning actress Hilary Swank, but with a backwards baseball cap.
Oh god, don't get me started on that. I'm gonna have to complain about that later. Okay. Melissa proposes a truce. Shauna calls her out for changing her name and quote marrying the daughter of a woman we killed. Melissa says a lot has happened in 25 years, and Shauna proposes that they both keep their knives. And that's the point where we exit here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to pause there because this is one of those implication lines. So, in the previous episode, we got that like, well, Melissa and Dan got close to Hannah, but they're both dead.
yeah,
And it's like it's phrased in this way where you're invited to assume they mean died out there, but if they had said we killed them,
right,
that
right.
would be a different
So
story.
here's my other point of ultimate vindication, which is that I predicted that Melissa faked her own death because she didn't want to deal with all of the the fallout
Yeah,
of having come back from this harrowing experience, and I was right about that too.
you were. You were.
Thank you.
Um
I live for it.
but yeah, I just want to note that I mean, not that it wasn't obvious that something was going to happen, but like phrasing it this way, suggests that they're really going to kill them, I think.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so Hannah, so here we know we killed her.
Yeah, which I'm
Whereas in the previous, yeah, whenever there's like they're dead,
yeah.
it's like,
Now, Gan might have died out there, and it's just they're both dead is a valid thing to say, and they just want to throw us off by like throwing in that extra name to
yeah,
like again like kind of bury the lead, you
yeah,
know. I think that was the point. I think I did acknowledge that your theory could be right for what it's worth. I was holding out. So the direction they went here was still not what I was expecting. It was just not what I was. It was Melissa, so that part I was expecting, or
yes,
at least like it felt strongly like they wanted me to
yes.
expect it, and it was true.
Yeah, well, that has been the whole thing we've talked about this season, that after season 1 where it's like I fell right into the trap that they wanted me to.
Yeah,
Like the Melissa thing, was it just another trap where
yeah.
everything is pointing to. Now, I think this episode still does leave me wondering whether she did these other things.
Well,
And we'll talk about
we're definitely gonna
that
have to get
when
into
we
it.
get there.
I have a specific point of view on
Mm.
most of that, but we'll see
Okay.
when we get there. Okay, so next scene we have Melissa calling Shauna and leaving an FU message, telling her to come back to the hospital. And then the doctor tells Ty that Van just needs hospice now. Ty isn't accepting it. The doctor leaves. Misty apologizes and tries to reassure her. And Ty wants to find the palliative care units. And that's setting us up for where we're going to go
I'm
with
sure
them.
she just wants to see the unit, scope it out for Van.
So, I mean,
I'm sure she's not gonna try to smother somebody with a pillow in order to try to appease the wood god to give Van another
mhm.
couple days.
I mean, it's pretty. I actually have a specific theory of what I think might happen, but do you think Van's actually going to die this season?
I don't know. I want to know your theory.
Well, I'm gonna save it till later because there's a specific scene
Okay.
that's like leading up to the thing that I think might happen.
All right. Well, phew, I'm waiting with bated breath.
Though it could go a lot of ways. I mean, it's always hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
But I have some, yeah, like they're wrapped up in a larger idea of like what might have happened this season writ large.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we go back to the past. Misty wakes up in the woods without her glasses, as she was before. That's where we left her in the last episode. I guess she fell
Yeah,
asleep too. I
everybody
don't
between
know.
last episode and this episode, everybody just like rolled over and went.
It's like they had an off switch. Like they were just kind of lying there inert
Mhm.
until it was time for the next week's episode. And it's always morning when they wake up. Anyway, she crawls around to find them. She finds the glasses. One lens is cracked, but it's still functional. She gets up and walks away. Obviously, that's good news. People pointed out that on Reddit that in the season 2 bit where they show them coming back, she has her glasses, and they were like, "Well, maybe she got the glasses like before that." That's like, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, that's the
Missing
thing. And they're like,
glasses.
are they cracked? And it's like, that's the wrong. Don't
That is
bother
the
with
wrong
that.
question.
I like that continuity errors could absolutely happen. Do I think they knew they were going to do this back then? I seriously doubt it. But I do think if Misty doesn't have glasses out there, every scene
True.
is going to involve that now.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes sense that it's like either
Yeah.
we need a solution for her vision, or she needs to find her fucking glasses.
Yeah.
There's
Or
there's
they're just gonna have to eat her. But obviously we know if she doesn't get eaten. It's
indeed,
you know.
indeed. Okay. So next scene, Cody is leading Travis and Aquila to the quote pickup point. I guess implying that's where they were supposed to go back
Yeah, yeah.
to be picked up. Aquila asks about the others, saying, quote, "This doesn't feel right." I just want to come back to that because that's a thing that comes up later, and I just thought it went right by me the first time. The second time, I'm like, okay,
Yeah, it definitely hits differently.
yeah, they're doing a thing with this line, and
Mhm.
so I just wanted to point it out. Okay, Travis says that they'll send back rescue, and then Aquila says Ben was supposed to be our way home, and then Travis says he doesn't believe the visions, and he lied about her being a seer, and she reluctantly agrees to continue, but leaves a chunk of her sweater on a tree for a trail. Later, we see Misty find the chunk smiling. So, uh, yeah, so uh, it's not long before Aquila's already like going
Yeah.
behind his back and basically sabotaging this mission.
Yeah.
And the only thing she says is, what about the others? This doesn't feel right, and Ben was supposed to be our way home. So, it should be one of those three things or combination.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that, one thing that's interesting about that is it shouldn't feel right because Cody's lost. I don't think that he really knows how to get them back. I think he's projecting confidence that he does,
Yeah,
but that he's
he's that kind of
plotting
character.
how he's going to overtake them.
Yeah,
So if she's just very tuned in to people, then she could just be picking up on his deception.
yeah,
Um, at the same time, the fact that she mentions Ben, ugh.
yeah. All I'll say is, if that's true, I hope they tell us later.
But you're the one who told me that people on the internet are saying like, "Oh yeah, well this could be an interpretation of
Yeah,
Ben being the bridge because cooking Ben is what brought these people to
maybe
us."
someone will bring that up, but it is interesting that Aquila like doesn't think that clearly.
Yeah.
She's like, no, like literally, it was like
No,
Ben.
literally, he's going to be a giant
We were gonna
bridge.
walk across
I'm
his
going to walk
ass.
him to a twinkling
And when I say his
metropolis.
ass, I really mean it. I was
His
on his
high
ass.
protein butt meat.
Okay. So, oh, I was also happy to finally have Travis like come out and say what I assumed he was thinking this whole time. It was nice to just like have that out
Yeah.
in the air. Like, okay, yes, Travis A doesn't believe the stuff, that was clear, but also B, the thing about Achilles made up.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that the whole time, but it was good to just finally have him say, "Yup, that's right, that's what happened.
Yeah.
You shouldn't take yourself too seriously because like I just looked over at you and it seemed like a good story."
Yep.
Okay. You ready to continue?
I am.
Okay. So the Yellowjackets furiously question Hannah. She's back at the camp from the previous episode. They weren't asleep at least. At least they didn't wake up.
Thumbs down on the wig. Honestly, that wig is another lost connection.
Oh,
That's as
you know
bad
what?
as that's like Naomi's wiggy hair.
She's a Naomi type character showing up here.
So
So
she needs a Naomi type of wig.
hey, I think that's what it takes. I didn't even think about it being a wig, but I didn't think about Naomi's thing being a wig either. So
I
what
mean,
do we know?
I hope that if it's not a wig, that the actress who plays that character isn't listening and taking offense at this. But it's
Oh
it's
man, what
not
if
a
she mailed
great
us
look.
like a chunk of her hair? Like
Whoa.
send it to the lab.
What would you do if you received a chunk of hair in the mail? And follow-up question, what if it happened in the same week that your brakes stopped working and the mechanic said that there was nothing wrong with
The
it?
brakes, the freezer, the chunk of hair in
Man,
the mail.
that. Well, we'll get there. Anyway,
Someone trying to kill me or us or everyone or
I'm just saying
anyway.
it's not a great haircut if you want to not reinforce the stereotype of scientists.
Yeah, fair point. So anyway, she says they're a frog research team. And she mentions maybe you heard their mating call and gets no
No response. It's
reaction.
so annoying.
They don't
Yeah, I
say a
wish like
word.
maybe you've heard their mating call. It sounds like the bellows of banshees.
Yeah.
That's why we call it the banshee frog.
They don't say a fucking
They don't say a
word.
word. They
I was
blow
blown
right past it. They
away.
blow right
I'm
past it.
like, y'all were hearing this shit earlier, making a big, and now you're just like brushing that off. Like, oh, who cares? Like, what? Like, I don't know.
They've moved on.
That
They're
really,
like, but from their point of view, it's like, yeah, what could it possibly sound like? Ribbit, 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 ribbit. That's
yeah.
like that's
Maybe
what.
she should have emphasized more. But I want them to put it together so they know that they were like making a lot out of nothing. And like the way they wrote this scene, they don't fucking know that.
I do not believe they are going to put that together.
Well, you're probably right, but I'm
Um,
just frustrated by that.
because I think that we already know that in the future they're still holding on to this confusion over whether they made too much out of nothing.
Yeah, true,
So
true.
I think that frog thing could be a problem.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah.
After they explained a bit, Hannah realizes who they are.
Yeah,
Um,
this scene is so interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it confirms that Edwin did recognize them
Yeah,
in that brief moment.
I think so.
Because she doesn't get it initially, but like after they prime her a bit, she's like, "Oh yeah, I heard about
Yeah.
that." Because it's been a while at this point. It's been like a year, over a year, I
Yeah.
think. Um, Ty asks if they're still searching. Hannah says they searched for months. Shauna says they just gave up. Nat says you can get us back. Hannah says she doesn't know where they are. Shauna says you don't know a lot of things.
Oh, Shauna.
Fucking
Aggressive Shauna's back.
God, Shauna seemed better, and like now I'm like, oh, I'm back to being annoyed with Shauna all the
Yeah.
time again. All right. Anyway, Hannah asks if she is the captain. Shauna, that is.
Hmm.
Shauna and Natalie argue about it for a bit. Ty stops them. Hannah asks if they built all this. Shauna says, "Who else?" And then she says, "You obviously all left us out here to die."
Oof.
Oh my God, I'm getting annoyed just reading it.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
shaking your whole
It's, it
body.
makes me so mad. Okay. Hannah says it's impressive what they've done. Nat asks if she can get them out. Hannah says she can't, but Cody can. Not in so many words, but that's the idea. And then Misty runs into camp saying she found, quote, them. Shauna tells Ty to watch Hannah and Lottie as well, who's just been like sitting off to the side this whole time.
Yeah, with another hatchet.
And they all leave.
God
Yeah,
only knows what she's gonna
it's gonna
do
like teleport
next.
behind someone else and
Yeah.
fucking oh man. Yeah, I was just annoyed with like, you know, like yeah, I was just annoyed that it seems like Shauna's like blaming Hannah that like they stopped searching for them.
Yeah.
It's like you think that was her fucking
Yeah, don't take it
decision?
out on her. She's got nothing to do
There's
with
like
this.
billions of people in the world. Like, do you really
Mhm.
think it was her decision that she was like, no, call off the search,
Call it off.
leave them there to die?
Call it off. It disturbs the frogs. We'll never find them
I'm
anyway.
just it's like you like it's just like so weird to blame some random person, you know.
Also, you're thriving out there, girl.
It'd be one thing if it was a park ranger. Yeah, I know. It's like it's so she doesn't even want to leave after all this. So
Yeah.
it's just like she's so full of shit on so many
Yeah.
levels. It's hard to take. It really is hard to take. I can't I just can't even with Shauna, adult or teen. Like they're just both so fucking unhinged. It's ridiculous. Like more so than anyone else somehow. Like even
Yeah.
Lottie, I don't know. Like Lottie, I kind of get where she's coming from, but Shauna, like I don't know what the fuck her deal is.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
Yeah, gone are the days of hardcore likable Shauna. Like season one,
it was such a different
Shauna
world
was like
back
the
then.
most likable character in any television.
I have a specific thought about that, but I'm gonna save it till later when they start
Okay, well,
like
don't forget it though.
I think I'll remember it because it's a very pointed scene
Okay,
where they're talking about Shauna and I
save it.
just there's a thing I want to say there. Okay. So they're gonna go off and do that, I guess. Back to the present.
Back to the present.
Jeff and Callie sit in the hotel bar restaurant area. Wasn't quite sure what to call this, but that's the idea.
Lounge, I think.
Lounge. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say lounge. I'm like, is it a lounge? And I'm like, what is a lounge?
We
And
need
then
a
I'm like,
hotelologist.
just yeah, like just shut up, brain. All right. Jeff thinks it's good to get out of the room. Um, Callie says, I had to quote this precisely. Are we sure that any of this is like actually that's the end of the
Uh-huh.
sentence.
I love that as much as they talk about generational differences, teens today 95% talk exactly the way that we talked when we were
It could have
teenagers.
just been like in Clueless or something.
Is any of this
Like
actually
actually it does seem like she's gonna like say something there, but it doesn't complete. And it leaves me wondering like what she was actually gonna say. I have some thoughts about it that sort
worth
of comes up
doing,
later.
like grounded in something
Real, yeah, something
real?
along
Yeah.
those lines. Yeah. Um but doesn't complete her thought as Jeff sees the Joels. Jeff tries to hide, but they see him and wave him over. Jeff goes over and tells them that he's on a staycation. They're skeptical, pointing at Callie, but he says that's my daughter,
Yeah, gross.
and they believe that he was serious.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that, like, well, Callie, because there's two kinds of people in this world, people who
oh
wave people over and people who go when somebody waves them
yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, Jeff.
There's an interesting point about Jeff later that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That yeah, stood out to me more the second time than the first time, and I think that is like part of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't I
he's on
didn't
an arc.
I didn't mention that line, but yeah, it's kind of a yeah, like a B plot for the season or whatever. B character plot, I guess. Okay. Jeff tries to pitch them on furniture again, but they're going in a different direction. Furniturefam.net. They dismiss
I don't
him.
understand because the hotel already has
I didn't get
furniture.
it either. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, are they like refurnishing all the rooms? Is that the point? Like, I don't really understand.
Yeah, I'm sure that this is key to
It
understanding
really
the
doesn't
whole
matter,
thing.
but like, I do think there's something weird here.
Yeah.
Okay. They dismiss him. Jeff gets a call from Misty asking for Shauna. Misty tells him what happened. Misty asks where Shauna was the day Lottie died. They get nowhere. Like, Jeff doesn't actually say what he knows about that, which I think is maybe
You mean the
notable.
cat? The cat
Maybe
thing?
just, yeah, that he was actually separated from Shauna and he knows
Mhm.
that she went to New York City
Yeah.
and where Lottie
Well, but I mean, I
was.
can sort of understand how he wouldn't want to give Misty any further information when she herself is being so cagey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, they get nowhere and Misty gets off the phone and then Jeff sits down with Callie again and that's where we end the scene. Okay. So we're gonna come back to the Jeff and Callie Sal Jeff and Callie saga. Woo. Okay. Jeff and Callie Sally is what I wanted to say.
Jeff and Collie Saga.
Callie saga. Okay. Shauna says, so we're back to Shauna and Melissa. Shauna says she didn't know Melissa was alive and living there, just in case, just
Yeah.
to make it clear. Shauna says that they went to her funeral. Melissa says it turns out if you leave a suicide note, even without a body, the cops will take the easy win. Just want to pause there. Okay. Shauna asks why. Um, uh, is she still in love with Shauna?
Ugh.
And just like
Shauna,
hey, it's got to be about me. Almost everything in
not
the world is
everything.
about me.
Oh, Shauna.
um, Melissa says no, and that she never really was. She says she had no choice. Quote, after we made it back, I was no longer one of you. And you scared the absolute fucking shit out of me. And then her phone buzzes. Shauna stops her from answering. Shauna finally reveals why she's there, asking about the tape. Melissa says, Hannah told me where to find it. She begged me to give it to her daughter if I ever made it back home, but I couldn't. But you, Shauna, know that. Uh, if anyone heard what was on it, ellipsis, and what good would that have done for her to know that? That's her explanation. Shauna says, so you married her instead? Melissa defends it, saying it's real. She reveals that she was just checking up on Alex for a while until they met and, fell in love and so on. Then she describes her normal, boring life. Shauna says that doesn't matter to me and tells her to sit, and they sit at a table with their knives, and we'll come back to them later. Uh, okay. So I remember watching this the first time where I was like, so did you leave the tape or not? Like it wasn't clear. The next scene makes it clear that she did leave the tape, but it's strange that
Yeah,
they
yes, I agree.
don't quite say it here. They say that she found the tape, but they don't say that she left the tape.
Yeah.
Minor point, but still. Okay. So yeah, that whole thing about so she faked her death. I mean, total vindication, like you said. She faked a suicide
Yeah.
specifically. And the cops will take the easy win. Anyway, sorry, I just wanna let that sit there. Um,
Okay.
I'll come back to that. I mean,
I'm intrigued.
it's not necessarily relevant, but I just thought that line was notable. Okay. And then yeah, so this line here, like after we made it back, I was no longer one of you.
Oh, you mean, oh, you're making a parallel to Lottie.
Yes.
Got it.
I'm making a
Sorry. I
parallel
don't
to
know why I'm
Lottie.
so dense. I was like, what is he
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about?
That's what I'm alluding to for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like there might be some thematic elements there. Not that I think Lottie faked her own death. I mean, her corpse
I
is
don't
there.
either, and I am like rubbing my hands together in anticipation of the satisfying vindication of my other theory, which is that Callie is the one who pushed Lottie down the stairs.
Yes.
We will talk about that later.
We will talk about that later when it comes up. I have my doubts, but I'll talk them through when we get there. Not that I think you're wrong. I'll just explain what my doubts are.
You can't see this, listener, but I'm holding a knife as well.
Oh God. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this line. After we made it back, I was no longer one of you. Like
Yeah.
that.
It's interesting because yeah, she's not really part of the crew when they land or when they crash. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but no longer, which means at some point she did consider herself one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after they came back, she was no longer one of them. So it suggests to me that again, these lines with implications about the past are something I always want to focus on. It suggests to me that at some point there's some kind of rift there. We kind of see it even starting in this episode, in a small way. But that like, and we also know that she's gonna befriend Hannah. Hannah's gonna tell her this thing, right? So it's like there's an arc there for Melissa like hovering that we haven't really seen play out, but it sort of implies that Melissa's going in the opposite direction from what I thought. Which is actually like disconnecting from them, not reveling in it, not joining them, actually wanting to run away from them as quickly as possible. Hanging in there to survive, I guess,
Yeah.
but wanting to disconnect as soon as possible, unlike the rest of them who didn't really do that. So I think
Yeah,
that's
it's an
notable.
interesting point. Yeah, that's all.
So I also thought it was funny that she simply said, Hannah told me where to find it. Like
Oh yeah, give me a fucking
after our long discussion
yeah.
last week,
Uh-huh.
the
That's how yeah, that's the writers telling us that that they know that the fandom is going to be like, how the fuck did you find that tape? But we're like, it doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, they might show us, but I do feel like ultimately it can't matter that much
It's
because, like, I mean, maybe it matters in the sense that they'll tie it into something else
but
or
it isn't going to be
whatever.
some dramatic thing like one day there's like a rainstorm and it washes
Yeah,
up and Shauna finds it and is so furious
yeah,
that she kills Hannah.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's not going to be some
Exactly.
significant thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she said, give it to my daughter, or give it to her daughter, if Melissa makes it back. So like I think that's a bit odd, honestly.
Why?
Because it's got like it's a tape of her murderers. I mean maybe she doesn't know that they're gonna kill her when she says that, but she knows they killed Edwin. And who knows what's happening to Cody at that point. There's a murder on the tape.
Yeah, but I mean, she's just thinking about the letter that she recorded to
She just
the
wants the
message.
message.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she recorded this heartfelt message
Yeah.
thinking she was about to die.
I guess that part makes sense. It's the other stuff that I'm like, yeah, does she really want to hear that? But I guess like she didn't really have time to be like, let me tape over the and of
Yeah,
course they don't want to do that either, because that's part of the point of the plot. So
right.
whatever. But yeah, I just thought this was funny that
Yeah,
they
it's not like if you ever make it out of here, find my daughter, fast forward to minute 17:36.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, uh, but yeah, I mean, Melissa talks about what's on it, so it's clear that like
Yeah.
it was a liability, and I mean, even trusting, going back to the whole thing later where Cody and Hannah are like, we won't say anything, and it's like, Yeah, how I mean, once we're back, like it's out of our hands, we can't really do shit about it. And why are you gonna be loyal to us after all that? Like, it doesn't really make sense that you would be.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, like, Hannah must really trust Melissa. I mean, it could just be desperation, of course, but like, it's not in Melissa's interest for this tape to be heard by other people. She's implicated in that stuff too.
Well, and
You
yeah, and that's why
know,
she doesn't.
it is. That's
Oh, I
literally,
mean, assuming that she's being honest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what she says anyway, and it makes sense. But it's just like she's asking Melissa in a way to implicate herself. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a weird ask, as the kids
It's a
say.
weird ask.
I just want to mention that. And then I mean, I do think it's weird. I do think it's weird that she marries at like that's there is something like, okay, well, I guess I'll talk about it more later because they talk about this in more
I mean,
specifics
it's pretty
later.
deceitful. If you found out that the person you married had
Yeah,
actually known your one of your parents and been a part of a group that murdered
yeah,
them and they never told you
yeah,
that at all,
yeah.
like if you I don't know how I would actually feel because you can only imagine if you haven't been in a situation like this. But I guess if I found out that I was married to somebody who had um faked their identity, like assumed a new name to get out of a bad situation, not because they did something wrong, although I mean, we'll set that aside.
Yeah,
But like that's not why they did it. They're not like running from justice or something.
yeah.
Um
It could be witness protection
Witness
program.
protection, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then it's like I feel like I could come to terms with that.
Yes, that's different.
Um, but the idea that they, you know, were an accomplice to killing my parent and didn't say anything, like,
Specifically forming a relationship under false pretenses. Like, not only does she
well,
not,
I mean, I think if we're giving her the benefit of the doubt and trusting her story, and she's like, at first I was just keeping an eye on her to make sure she was okay, but then I fell in love with her.
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I could let that piece pass. It's just like the murder thing.
I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm just saying it's built on a lie.
Sure.
Like you are specifically covering up like why you're even there in the first place.
Yeah.
And to me, like, sure, that doesn't matter in a way as much as the implication in her mother's murder. I'll buy that, but it is still a lie
It's still,
to
yeah.
pretend like they just
Yeah.
randomly met or whatever when
Yeah.
she was specifically like following her and like checking up on her and stuff. Like, to me, like, there's an inherent deceit built into this, and so I think Melissa's like letting
Yeah.
herself off the hook a little too easily. I agree, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
think
get what you're
Shauna in a way
saying.
has a point that like this isn't normal.
Yeah. I ain't going to Shauna for relationship
Me
advice,
either, but I'm
but
just saying, like,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
it doesn't mean she's always wrong, even if she's
Yeah.
kind of awful a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will come back to that, so we can probably say a few more bits about that later. Okay. Back to the past. Aquila is stalling, quote, getting a rock from her shoe. As Travis urges her to get moving, seeing some rustling in the bushes, she gets up, pointing the gun at Travis and Cody as the Yellowjackets emerge, saying they're coming back to the main camp. Cody claims that there are more of them, but Van says that they saw their camp with three sleeping bags, so he's lying. Travis reluctantly points the crossbow at Cody, and they head back. So yeah, there's actually an interesting bit here with Aquila later that I want to talk about, but it didn't happen here, so I won't talk about it here. But I will just note that you
More
know
to come.
Travis instantly goes into, you know, oh yeah, 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 I'm on your side. Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
you better do what they say, Cody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's very, yeah, there it's
Go along to get
still a,
along.
yeah,
That's
it's all about
Travis.
self-preservation.
whatever you say, boss. I'm here. So yeah, I'm disappointed but not surprised that this happened. Because I did want this to progress more than it's allowed to,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
agreed.
Like Cody doesn't do shit this episode, which is interesting. After the way he was portrayed in the last episode, like he's
Yeah,
very passive this whole episode. He barely says anything. He doesn't really try to do anything. He's just being led along from place to place like the
yeah.
whole time. I don't know, it's weird. Okay. Back at the camp, Ty questions Travis and Aquila about leaving them behind. And here it is. At this point, Aquila actually covers for Travis a bit. They tell this story about what they were planning to do that's like a little off from what the truth was, but it actually makes them look better. And specifically, like it makes Travis look better since he was the one that really wanted to do it, and Akila's the one who like got the rest of them involved.
Yeah.
So, but she does kind of lie about her. Like, well, I shouldn't say. I think she lies about the trail. She says that she left the trail in case something happened, but I thought she left the trail for the reason that we see, which is to lead them there,
Yeah, I
to
think
catch
she's
him.
covering for
But she's covering for Travis, so I'll give her some points for that because
yeah.
like at least she's giving him that much. She could totally rat him out
Yeah, I
here.
mean she definitely gets points that neither Shauna nor Lottie deserve to get,
Yeah, yeah,
in this. And then I guess Ty as well.
yeah.
Ty, I don't know what to do with Ty.
There's still some room for humanity here. So
Uh-huh.
I just I just appreciated that, even though I was disappointed that she, basically sabotaged the
Yeah.
mission to escape. Like she could totally throw him under the bus and be like, "We need to kill Travis because like he was trying to like leave you all behind, and he said he never wanted to see any of you again. He hoped you all died out here." Like she could have said something like that if she wanted, right? Like
Sure.
and like what like how they gonna know if he's lying?
Hmm.
Like the circumstances don't look good for him. So
Yeah, they don't.
anyway, I appreciated this.
Yeah.
Okay. They seem to accept the story. Nat asks Cody if he can get them out, and he says yes. 6 days to the rescue point if you can keep up. That's probably the most Cody thing he
So
says in the whole
annoying.
episode.
Yeah.
Nat says okay, telling them all to prepare, but Shauna points out that Nat's not in charge anymore.
Ugh.
I know, and I'm just ready to stab my eyes out so I don't have to look at her again. Anyway,
Yeah.
Misty
Trailer one.
asks what they will do with Cody and Hannah. Cody and Hannah say that they won't say anything, but Misty says they can't know that for sure. Shauna agrees with Misty. Nat says we can decide this later, and then says that Cody and Hannah should bury Edwin, putting Mari in charge of supervising them for no apparent reason. Um, and then, just as they are about to happily pack to go home, Lottie says, "We can't go back. We don't belong there anymore." And
Ugh, SMH.
and Natalie dismisses Lottie and they start to pack, but Shauna doesn't move for what it's worth, setting up a thing that's gonna happen later.
Yeah.
Um, so like uh I so first of all, like I think Misty's point is totally valid. I mean, if you're implicated in a murder, like it's not, I'm not out here saying like kill all the witnesses, but like, let's putting morality aside, if your goal is not to get caught, it really is this safest option. If you already done a murder
Yeah.
or multiple murders or
Yeah.
whatever, it's like, okay, I mean, so anyway, I think like it's a valid point, even if it's harsh. And then the other thing I was gonna say
It's definitely
is
harsh.
um I buy like Lottie is like the Locke of this show, and so like Locke was the one who never wanted to leave the island. That's where he
Yeah,
found
I get why
his
she doesn't want to leave the
purpose. Yeah,
The
exactly.
wilderness.
It makes sense, right? So like that's the thing. Like if it was Lottie, I buy it. But like, yeah, when it the thing it turns into at the end like feels like bullshit to me. And
Yeah.
that's where I get annoyed. If it's just Lottie going now, if Lottie and she did axe Edwin, if Lottie goes and like breaks the what like once it turns into an actual lock thing where she's sabotaging all of their chances to leave, at a certain point
Yeah.
I'm not buying it anymore. But just Lottie herself, like I get it. So I don't consider it invalid. Like clearly from the the cult stuff in season 2 and so on, like she was like drawn to that kind of environment and like felt some kind of connection with it, and like it gave her something that she wasn't getting
Yes.
back in the like normal parts of civilization. And so anyway, like it's like if it was just that, I feel like this could be fine,
Yeah.
and it's like Lottie becomes this like hermit who's just like living out in the woods, and
Mhm.
like
With
it's
squirrels as her acolytes.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
perching on her shoulder and shit.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
Snow White,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
but with
Exactly.
cannibalism.
And some hey, I mean, look, does the hunt with no violence ever feed anyone?
As Snow White very nearly said.
Okay. So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Back to the present. Shauna asks Melissa why she sent the tape. Okay, so
Here we go,
finally,
finally.
finally we acknowledge that that's what happened. Melissa says it was haunting her. She was just keeping it as leverage against them in case they came looking for her. Shauna says, "Why would we come looking for you?" Melissa deflects by asking, "Why would Lottie start a cult?" And then recites the stuff that happened at the end of season 2.
Yeah, I to which I said, "How is she supposed to know this?"
It's a good
To
question.
which you reminded me that she must be watching the show.
I do feel that way, and I am going to come back to that. And I'll also just add in passing here that Shauna briefly defends the cult. She's like, well,
Yeah.
actually, it was more of an intentional community. I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting that she even
Yeah.
cared to do that
Uh-huh.
because she was like shitting all over Lottie's camp when she was there.
Yes, she was.
And it's just like I don't know if she's flip flopping like Lisa or what, but I don't know. It stood out to me because it was like she didn't need to do this, and I'm
Yeah.
just surprised they even bothered to write this line. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if it's just for the chuckle or
it might be.
yeah.
It might be. Melissa says that Natalie died, and quote some cop. Kevin Tan, he went to high school with you, Melissa.
Oh,
You
right.
fucking know who Kevin Tan
Some
is.
cop.
Yeah, she just says some cop, and it's like I'm like, who? Like, what are you talking about? Like, maybe you weren't
Natalie's
close.
bestie. Oh, well, she was like a year behind them.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm saying like, I just feel like she would have known who he was, even
Yeah.
if like they weren't close.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like he wasn't close to Misty either, but she knew who the fuck he was.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. Anyway, whatever.
Oh my
Um,
God, is she jealous? Is she doing this because she's jealous that she didn't get celebrated at the 25-year class reunion because it wasn't her 25th year?
oh man, that's funny.
Um,
That's funny. Oh, it
yeah.
wasn't even my reunion, and
Uh-huh.
Allie didn't talk about my trauma bond.
Yeah, I definitely don't believe it, but
I don't believe it
it
either,
cracks me
but
up to
I want
think
it to be
so.
true.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's a good theory. All right. Yeah. She stopped sleeping, and she had nightmares during the day. This stood out a little bit to me. Um,
Yeah,
then
nightmares during the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. I want to make a few comments about that. Then she talks about Barbara, her quote therapist, although she's not a
Not a
doctor or a
doctor.
therapist, more of an advisor is what she says. Um all Barbaras are, as Shauna says. Uh,
Oh,
and
Barbara Zimmer.
and Barbara Barbara told her to, quote, let go of what she was holding on to. And I guess she meant it literally. And she mentions going to Nat's funeral and then leaving the tape after that to help Shauna also, quote, let go.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I know. There's a lot of stuff here. Shauna says, bullshit. It was a threat. And Melissa says, it was all in the note that she left with the tape. But Shauna don't know about no note. That's the way I wrote it. She didn't say that. But she don't know about no note.
don't know
Uh,
about no note.
saying that she's lying. She's been messing with Shauna for weeks. And we get our standard
Uh-huh.
checklist of doom.
Yeah.
And Melissa says she has no idea what Shauna's talking about. And Shauna says, quote, we can make all the pacts and vows of silence we want, but the only way to truly be safe is to be the only one left. And then she says, that's why you pushed Lottie down the stairs, isn't it? But Melissa's surprised about Lottie because she claims not to have even known that Lottie was dead.
Yes.
And
What a scene.
that's where we leave things for now. Yeah, there's a lot of bits here. A lot of bits here. So I want to come through the roughage, but yeah, did you want to say something
I
about this
mean,
before I come through?
well, I have a feeling you have a more systematic way that you want to come through it.
I do.
So I'll let you do that, but I just want to say, because I know how to watch TV, this is how we know that Shauna definitely is not the one who pushed Lottie down the stairs.
Yeah, it would be wild to accuse Melissa of doing it knowing she herself did it. Like,
Yeah,
that's
and
weird.
it'll be absolute horse shit if they do that later.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like she was just accusing her
Yeah,
because
just trying to throw her off.
yeah, some shit like that. I don't think they're gonna do that. I
No,
think what you're saying is true. I mean, I didn't really think it was Shauna, even with the DNA evidence, which we can come back to.
we will.
Um, okay. So yeah, um so she was keeping the tape as leverage, which I think is interesting. Like there's an implied threat there, right? So then
Yeah,
she sends the tape and she doesn't think it's a threat because she left a note. So anyway, this note thing
yeah, it better be a
is
really good note.
is it's interesting that Callie didn't mention the note
Yeah, do
because if there was a note in there, Callie should have known about it.
yeah.
And it was notable to me that in that scene, when she gives him the tape, she doesn't show him the envelope. She doesn't even describe it really.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it seems to me like she's holding something back there. And I don't know why, but that's what it looks like to me because I believe Melissa when she says she left a note. I just feel like it doesn't make sense to me that she lied about leaving a note because she doesn't even know what the fuck happened with the tape. Like she doesn't know for a fact that you
Yeah,
know
that it was intercepted by somebody other than Shauna.
yeah, and that it was controlled the way it was revealed to Shauna.
Yeah.
You know, like there's she has no way of knowing that again
Yeah,
unless
that
she
Shauna was
watches the
not the one that
show.
Shauna didn't open the envelope. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so like I'm gonna assume that she really did leave a
So
note.
I'm sure that some of these listeners went back and rewatch. I didn't go back and rewatch the scene where Callie gets the envelope.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah,
but I really want to know that. I meant to go back and watch it to see, do we see anything that could give an indication about a note being inside?
yeah, yeah. I feel like we didn't, but I don't actually remember and I didn't check. So anyway, but I think it's a thing we should find out about
Yeah.
because it's an idea that's planted here, not followed up on, and I think like we have two episodes in which we could find out something about it. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, but yeah, I just thought it's like it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have seemed like this is the implication. It wouldn't have seemed like a threat if you read the note.
Right.
And that makes me think that Callie is trying to sell it as a threat, and that's why she's withholding the note.
Oh, interesting.
For what it's worth.
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, maybe Barbara is just so brilliant and gives such very good guidance, but I don't see how listening to that tape or being sent that tape from out of the blue, even with a note, even with the world's most beautifully written note, I don't know how listening to that tape could help you move on.
It doesn't add up for me, I have to say. Like I do basically take Melissa at her word here, but like it it it, okay. So you're supposed to let go, right? Let go. So to me, the obvious thing to do is just fucking destroy the
Destroy
tape.
the tape.
Throw
Yeah.
it away.
Yeah.
Like, why give it? And
Yeah,
okay,
they don't even yeah.
so you're
They
gonna
don't even know about the tape.
you're exactly. So you're gonna give it to someone. Why are you giving it to Shauna?
Right.
She said, not just, may I quote from one scene ago here, after we made it back, I was no longer one of you, and you scared the absolute fucking shit out of me. She just said that. And so I'm like, of all of the people to leave it with, why would you leave it with someone who scares the absolute fucking shit out of you? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's pretty scary to put the symbol on the outside of the envelope. I
Totally.
mean, one might argue that they just did that to amp up the drama in the episode where that
Like
was
with the
delivered,
postcards.
but
Because, like,
yeah.
Jeff, come on.
Oh, Jeff.
you know, the idea that Jeff did that is still hard for me to believe, even though I do think it's true.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, it's definitely a bait and switch kind of thing happening, I think, with a symbol. But it's just like, I don't know. And maybe it's just a contrivance and whatever. But I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me why you needed to give it to anyone to quote let go, and it doesn't make sense to me that you would want to give it to Shauna of all people who you just said scared the shit out of you. It's like, I don't know, this is weird to me. Okay. um so yeah, we oh, and then the other thing, so that there's more, but we have a this goes on for a while.
Yeah.
It's a sharing shack scene here. And so we're gonna come back, but I did want to mention this line that Shauna says, because this is playing into something I've been talking about this whole season. This, we can make all the pacts and vows of silence we want. You know, that suggests, again, there have been multiple lines this season insinuating that at some point they made some kind of vow, they took some kind of oath not to talk about. So she even said vows of silence. So I think that's the kind of thing that they said.
Yeah.
Like, this has to stay between us, and I guess they agreed to trust each other to do that. Like, that's the implication, even though it's clear Melissa didn't, because she's keeping leverage,
Right,
right?
right.
And I guess like Ty like hired Jessica Roberts, although
Yeah.
that was maybe just for political reasons. But it doesn't seem, from what we know, like the other Yellow Jackets were like keeping dirt on the others.
Right.
That was leverage.
Right.
So it's like, on the one hand, she's like, I wasn't one of you, but on the other hand, she's doing
She's
something.
keeping this big secret and
Yeah,
keeping this like piece of leverage just in case she needed to. Because it's a pretty big, I mean, there's a lot at risk having that tape.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And more than one of them, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um uh 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 I mean, they're all implicated by it, but just to say, the others, as far as I know, didn't do anything like this. So it's like, you can think you're better than them, and maybe you are in some ways, but they didn't do this. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
think I need more on her. I'm not saying that you're being too harsh, but I feel that I need more character development on her. Because
obviously
I'm
it's
also not maybe a little more skeptical of her claims in this scene than you are.
fair enough. Maybe I am too gullible here. I just, Academy Award winning actress Hilary Swank is
Well,
very persuasive.
yeah, but that's the thing about actors. They are professional
They laugh
liars.
for a living, my boy. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's I guess it's not that I inherently think she's trustworthy or that I think just because she sounds convincing that we should believe her. The main reason why I'm inclined to believe her is that Shauna keeps saying she's lying. And I am not convinced that Shauna is like on a logical path this season in judging situations. Now, of course, it could be, oh, this is the one time she's right after having been wrong the entire season. That could be true, but I think that's what's like pushing me to sort of believe because I'm like, Shauna just keeps, you're lying, I don't believe you, you're lying, and I'm just like, I'm not convinced that she is lying. This kind of mostly sounds believable to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it is possible she's lying about something. It's possible that most of it's true, but there's one lie in here, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
We will.
okay, so we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that.
Okay, so next scene, still in the present, Misty goes to Ty standing outside someone's room and has Misty confirm from the chart that the man is dying.
Which was clear from the ward in which he has been placed.
Just want to make sure, okay? Ty goes in and grabs a pillow. Misty tries to stop her. Ty is about to do it, meaning kill the guy, like smother him with a pillow, but can't do it and pulls back the last second. But then the machine flatlines and she asks if that counts. Misty grabs Ty and they get out of there. Um, so
Yeah.
Ou commencer.
Yeah.
I just something I thought was sort of notable here. Um,
Thank you.
something I thought was
Sorry. I forgot that we were recording a podcast. I thought it would just sneeze.
I can wait until it passes.
It's go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
It's doing the thing where
I'm afraid to start.
No, do it.
Okay.
Start.
So like I thought that it was clearly established in the earlier scenes that the takeaway was that the bad one's been in control
Yeah.
for like the whole season basically.
Yeah, this was interesting.
And then here it becomes clear that's not true because it
Yeah.
definitely seems like it's real Ty that pulls back here.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I
And we
think
get
the
her
bad
later
one,
too.
yeah, and I don't think the bad one would think that there's a lot of power in hastening the death of someone who's already, very close to death.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it was very interesting, notable. We've talked in previous episodes about, has it been the bad one this whole season? If not, like what determines when the bad one comes to the fore or recedes? And this scene directly connected with that puzzle, though it didn't really give me a lot of answers, and it did leave me wondering if it was because they just really wanted to set up what's coming later, which is this kind of showdown between her two selves over who can, like how much power the bad one has, um to help man versus how powerless the regular Ty is, which is interesting in the sense that Ty is so like her background, even when she was a kid, she's that like high performing, like wants control. So having her confronting a situation that she can't fix, bringing out the bad one, whether that's the campaign or now Van's health, is, it's a similar situation in that sense to being in the wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you said something earlier in the season
The dog
about.
just really disagrees with my point.
Hey,
She's
hey,
like,
can you at least get away from the
I'm not
microphone while
having
you're
it.
doing that?
Yeah, she's 10
Um,
times louder than both of
hey,
us.
go Orf over here. There you go. Um, okay. Sorry. You mentioned earlier in the season, like the idea that like Ty and the bad one maybe is more of a spectrum than like a binary,
Yeah.
and like I do think I'm starting to kind of buy into that idea that like she can like fluidly move between the two in a given moment, and that it hasn't been as simple as we were led to believe
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I think they might have changed their mind a bit about how they wanted the bad one to function.
It
Um,
does feel that way, yeah.
but I could also imagine that maybe this is more realistic in the sense that if there's nothing supernatural going on, which you are firm in your belief
Ever
about that,
so.
um then the idea that they're both just her, but different temperaments or something like that. um you know I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Just like a different, yeah, disposition, or they have different lines that they'll cross or they won't cross.
But seeing that freaking okay, well, I'll wait.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Um but yeah, I think it's weird that like the guy seemingly dies here anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he has
Like,
some heart issue.
yeah,
So who knows? Maybe he's on some level aware that someone is standing over him about to suffocate him and he has a heart attack or something. I don't know.
yeah. That makes sense, I guess.
We need a
Yeah, I
cardiologist
can
to
buy that.
to run the tape, take a look at that machine and let us know exactly what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like the bad one doesn't think that counts based on the
I
scene
don't think it
later.
counts either. I mean, if you think that there's power in it, we in the scene at Lottie's camp, she says, because doesn't somebody say that they'll just doesn't somebody offer to sacrifice themselves in that scene?
Um,
And Lottie's like, it doesn't work that way.
uh, I do remember it doesn't work that way, but I don't remember anyone offering to sacrifice themselves. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Anyhow.
I'm not sure. But the thing I was gonna say is like, and I know, like, look, yeah, as you mentioned, like avowed skeptic here, especially when it comes to Yellowjackets. Talk to me about Battlestar Galactica. Talk to me about whatever. Like, I'm not a skeptic because that shit was real, but on this show, definitely skeptic. Um, Going back to the waiter, right? Which was the impetus for all of this. They didn't fucking kill the waiter. Like the waiter was following them and like had a
Yeah.
heart attack, right? And like
Yeah.
so it's like you could say that like their actions led, but how do you know? What if he would have had that heart attack even if he stayed in the restaurant? Like it's not
Yeah.
provable.
Is dine and ditch worse than almost but not suffocating a person?
Yeah, I mean, my point is just that they like took that to count. Well, maybe Van didn't, but Ty took it to count that this waiter died and
Yeah.
was like, that's why your cancer went into remission. But it's like, but it didn't actually kill him.
And it seems like her cancer's not in remission either. So,
So, well, I know, but so yeah, but my point is like, I feel like if the waiter counts, there's no reason this can't count. Like, to me,
yeah.
this is just as valid as that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Of course, I think neither of them count for what it's worth,
Yeah, because
but
there's no there
because
there.
there's no there there. But like in terms of Ty's frame of mind, like I don't understand
Mhm.
why she's convinced the waiter counts,
Yeah.
but like isn't sure this does. Anyway, whatever. Minor point. That's what I'm here for. Okay. So we go back to the past.
Mhm.
Mari supervises Cody and Hannah's burial of Edwin. She imagines a Slurpee. And then we see
This sequence is so weird.
yeah, then we see other Yellowjackets fantasizing about the comforts of home. I won't bother to recite them. You can watch the scene if you want. Ty interrupts Van saying, "What if they can't be together when they get back?" And Van says, "Why not?" And Ty says the world hasn't changed that much. But Van doesn't care. Uh, Ty talks about memorizing lies slash hiding things.
Which seems like a far more significant point than the idea that, like, let's not go back to civilization because civilization doesn't fully accept gays.
Yeah.
Like, you've got way bigger problems than that. Because also it's the 90s, not the 50s.
It really could be worse. It's like, yeah, it's like, sure, it wasn't the same, but like, also, it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't the same as it was 50 years before that, for sure.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
2 years before Ellen kissed a woman on TV. Like we were on
exactly.
the cusp.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, yeah. Um, right. Ty talks about memorizing lies slash hiding things. Ding, ding, ding. That's my favorite thing to harp on. Uh, saying that they will have to kill Cody and Hannah, and even then, someone could slip up when they get home. She says this will follow us for the rest of our lives. Van says going home outweighs all of that, telling Ty to get a bag. She walks away a bit, and then we see behind Ty is the eyeless guy.
Yeah. What the hell?
I don't know why they felt the need to shoot it like this.
Yeah, I don't like it. They should trust that actress's
She can
face.
do it. It's usually very easy to tell
It's
when she's going into
so
that
good.
mode.
Yeah, when they want us to know,
It's
it's
not hard.
obvious. Yeah.
It's not
No,
hard.
she nails it with the face.
And like it's for us, right? Like who's even seeing that?
It's
She's
just
not
us.
even
She's not
looking.
looking. It's just for us.
So it's just
So I think it's like trust the actress and trust the viewers.
it does feel like, yeah, they're treating us like we're like,
But
but it's like,
I go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just like, but what does that guy even mean? I mean, other than symbolizing that this is the bad one, which we don't
Ding ding ding. I think
need,
that's all it
but
is.
but I'm pissed at that because clo ha- either have the book have been closed in the earlier episode when they give us this horse shit quote unquote explanation that she just picked it up from an ice cream commercial, which is bogus to me anyway. Like, unless, yeah, I was okay. All right, I'll let it go because if there was something more coming on that, it would have happened by now. But I thought that was so fishy. I did not buy it. Um, because it just doesn't make any sense. So then when they don't tell you that there's something else at play with that, then it's like, oh, okay, so the eyeless guy, they just wanted to get out of the way. They wanted to give us some explanation that it's like, oh, I just manifested this because I saw this commercial when I was a kid. Wow, it's been a mystery for decades for me. And now I just unlocked it. Oh, okay, it's just like a psychological manifestation. So then now we don't need to show that guy anymore because he doesn't mean anything except for the state of mind. And we already have a way of indicating that state of mind. And we're not going to consistently show that guy anyway. Every time she's in that state of
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
So why do we need him? Why show him? He doesn't do anything. He served a purpose early in the show. I feel like the writers decided that they didn't actually have anything. They didn't want to do anything with him.
Yeah, they
Like
didn't have
I
an
think they
idea.
wanted to in the beginning. They're like, "Ooh, let's throw this in. It's creepy. We'll figure it out later." And they're like, "Nah, we've gone a different direction." And so then that episode with the commercial, as irritated as I am about it, like that should have been the last time we saw that guy. Period. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
But it already wasn't because they showed him in the cave hallucinations as well.
In the cave hallucinations, that was a hallucination. So I'll allow it in the in a hallucination. I'll allow it.
It's weird that like Ty wasn't even involved in those
I mean,
hallucinations.
that's crazy. So then are we gonna see, like, was it just for us? Like,
I do kind of
if
feel like it was just for us, even though like my
you know
rationale
which
is
pisses me off even more because I've forgotten that he's in the cave hallucinations.
yeah,
And
sorry.
then they bring him back here, but that, it's just for atmosphere. Come on, it's cheap. So now I'm gonna say they better, since they brought him back for those two things, they better give us something else with him.
I
Or I'm gonna write a strongly worded letter and I'm gonna put it in an envelope with a dad tape and a symbol on the outside, and I'm gonna drop it off at their houses. And I'm gonna be like, this is so you will never let go.
so like I don't, okay. Where do I even start with this? So like I take the ice cream commercial reveal at face value because, well, hey, confirmation bias, right? Like it fits very well with my view of the show that like that's the explanation for the Isle of Skye. Like it makes way more sense than, you know, I don't know, like her grandmother saw this supernatural being that shows up when you die and takes your eyes or something, like that's what we were led to believe,
Yeah.
and then it like follows her into the woods and all that. Yeah, but there was oh oh shit. This is like sorry, this is a minor tangent, but it's Yellowjackets related at least. Someone brought up, do you remember that scene? Do you remember that scene? Oh, now I don't quite remember the context, so it's gonna suck a little bit. But do you remember that scene from season one with Ty and Sammy where um like he does, I forget what he did. That's what I'm
Wow.
like, that's what I've lost. But like he's got that doll,
Yeah.
and she takes it away, and there's a scene where he's like, give it back.
Yeah.
And she's like, Sammy, you don't talk to me like that. Go to your room or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Like someone brought this up on Reddit, and I was like pretty convinced by it that he sensed that the bad one had designs on that doll, which the bad one did put
Oh,
the doll with the eyes popped out
yeah.
in the altar that happens at the end, and that like the reason why he's reacting like that is he
He
senses that
sensed
she's the
it.
bad one and that she's going to do something with his doll,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like I didn't pick that up, but
Way
like
to
look at
go. Way to go, you on Reddit.
yeah,
Great.
yeah. Like when they said that,
Yeah.
because usually people say shit, and I'm like, that's the biggest stretch of bullshit I've ever heard. But like, I was like, you know what? That's
Yeah,
actually pretty
no, I
convincing.
buy that for sure. I mean, kids are so perceptive and they clearly are trying to tell us that he is.
Yeah, totally. It fits. It fits with like the whole thing they've done, like with that character and with that plus. So anyway, I was just like, yeah. And it's weird that I never, even though I've rewatched that scene multiple times, it never occurred to me to read it that way.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, that is totally what's going on
Yeah,
there.
well done.
So anyway, that's just I thought of it because I was thinking about how she pops the eyes out, implying I think a connection with the Isle of Skye.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a season two stuff where we saw the bad one like following the Isle of Skye to the symbol trees.
Yeah, and then we've got the eyes scratched out of the card.
I scratched out of the card. Yeah, that's a thing too. So there's definitely like some recurring symbols along those lines, I guess. And okay. And
It's
so
just I was just
sorry, I
listening.
was worried there was something wrong.
No, no, I was steering off
Um,
into space, but I was
okay, okay.
listening.
No, no, no. You don't actually have to listen. I just want to make sure there was nothing wrong. Anyway, um, uh, uh, so I feel like the show has like made. Oh, and earlier this season also, right in that scene where they're running away from the waiter, like there's a brief moment uh where Ty sees the eyeless guy. Um,
Yeah.
and so like I feel like the show has told us that at least for Thaisa, like the Isles guy is somehow linked in her mind with the bad one, or this persona that she has, or this side of her, as Van phrased it. And so I feel like the show is just using that as a shorthand. I agree it's cheap. I agree it's unnecessary.
It just doesn't add anything to that.
I agree it doesn't add anything. I maybe they do something with it. I'm just like, I feel like they have explained it, but that doesn't stop them from using it as shorthand. Like having established that it comes from nowhere,
Yeah.
just like Shauna kept complaining about the breaks even after getting an explanation of what it was,
Yeah.
you know. That's how I'm taking it. We'll see if I'm right about that. But I also think it's interesting how in this scene, like she kind of pivots. Like the initial point is what you were saying, like the world won't accept that, us because we're gay. And then she goes into, this is going to follow us for the rest of our lives and we're going to have to keep this secret, and like that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
you know and it's like, but she doesn't really acknowledge, like, so like, but which is the reason you can't go back, like,
Yeah.
it's like, was she just saying the first thing as a like, and also, if we're together, like maybe we're gonna face some hostility, maybe we're gonna have some.
Yeah. Is it part of just a general feeling of like, we don't, like Lottie says, we don't belong there
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And, the, yeah, but it is odd. I one would expect the power of the temptation of the possibility of going back
Yeah,
for creature comforts and civilization and everything to be outweighing. I mean, there
that's
has
what
to
Van
be a
says,
moment.
literally.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to understand how that could not be true. And as you pointed out earlier, Lottie's her own case, but
Yeah,
yeah, of course you need to come up with a plan, but you've got an allegedly 6-day hike
yeah,
to figure that out. And you can get there and you can overpower Cody and haul his ass back into the woods and kill him and bury him and go back to that spot and get yourself rescued.
yeah,
You can have all the time that you need to be, and maybe something like that is still going to happen. I mean, I don't see how it could, given that we know they're going to spend another winter there, but they could still try to get some kind of information out of him about, I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
I just they should be trying to think of like, okay, steady on. You guys want to stay fine, but let's still see what kind of information we can get. I mean, it's like crazy town this episode.
yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking like Thaisa Turner, future lawyer, future potential state senator, one of the planniest planners in Plantown. Like, I, you know, I just don't think that, she's unwilling. So I guess, as I think about it here, I kind of feel like what they're telling us is, uh, Thaisa is worried about going home, but it's the bad one who wants to stay.
Mm, yeah, okay.
That's the way I want to take it, I guess. Which like is the only way it makes any sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I just don't buy that regular Thaisa actually wants to stay.
Yeah.
And maybe the point of doing this here is just to make it 100% clear that that's what's going on.
Yeah,
Um, I agree it's overkill, but sometimes shows overkill things. I'm looking at
for
you,
sure.
leftovers. Anyway. Um, all right. But yeah, it's an interesting little thing here, thread in, they're all like getting to decide like what they're gonna do about this. Obviously we don't follow all of them.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Britt and Robin. I looked up their
Brit
names.
and
I
Robin,
looked up
like,
their names.
yeah,
Britt and Robin.
yeah.
We're not getting too deep into what they're thinking, but nonetheless. Okay. Are you ready to continue?
Yeah, let's
All
go.
right. So Shauna and Melissa pack. Shauna says that she's being weird. Melissa says she can't wait to get away from Shauna.
Oh boy.
She could
They are still
she
teenagers.
can She confronts Shauna about leaving her behind, shot with an arrow. Shauna says she knew Melissa would be okay because of Gin dealing with the wound. That's what she says. I'm like, what?
It's so thin. I mean, I don't think we're supposed to really buy
What?
into that.
Like, oh yeah, Gin. She's like all about
He's so
like
good with wounds.
handling wounds. She's like the wounds are like her superpower. Like, come on, like what? Like this just came out of nowhere. Anyway, not only that, she told Mari, "Stay here. If she dies, you die." She didn't say shit to. So it's like, why are you even? Okay, whatever. I just found this weird, but Sean is full of shit these days, so maybe that is all it is. Okay, and also claims to be the fastest, and that she wanted to get, quote, the guy who shot you. Melissa says she's lying. Shauna says she's still thinking about killing Cody for shooting you, and tries to defuse the situation. And she hands Melissa her hat,
So romantic.
which she puts on backwards, of course.
Obviously, the only way
Uh,
to do that.
and yeah, Melissa is excited about going back to a normal, boring life. And as she says this, Shauna sees a moth. And we get flashes from the dream earlier, the fluorescent light fixture. They cut it in here full of moths. Melissa breaks her out of her daze and hands her the sheath or scabbard, and Shauna takes it. I'm just going to call it that from now on.
Mhm.
When I learn two words, I want to use both of them every
Yeah,
time.
obviously.
Okay. So, yeah. So first part, I mean, Shauna gives so many bullshit reasons here. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy any of these reasons.
Yeah, she's running through excuses like she's Thaisa talking to Van.
It's so true. It's so true. But I feel like they're even worse. Like they're even more flimsy.
They're pretty weak, and they're also
Because at
just
least what
not.
Thaisa said was mostly like valid, if like questionable whether it was enough. Like this stuff, I don't even know if I believe it.
Here's my relationship advice to all of you out there. Even if you're you know, don't just make up a random assortment of excuses, even if there's truth in them. Um, Try to listen first. Lead with empathy.
Oh my God, are you a Barbara?
I'm a Barbara. I am a licensed relationship counselor, and
Does
I'm
it say
just
that on your business card?
it does. It does. And it also says my name, but I'll never reveal it. Yeah, it's just like, of course, Shauna won't even listen to try to understand or express any kind of compassion to Melissa in this moment of like, you know what, I'm sorry. It didn't I didn't intend it that way, but I understand why that hurt your feelings.
Well, she's not
What can I do to
capable of
make it
that,
up to
apparently.
you?
The Shauna that I used to know could have done that, but like this version is just so wrapped up in her own bullshit that it really, I don't know. In that scene in the last episode, or actually it was 2 episodes ago, when she is instructing Natalie on how to prepare Ben's body and stuff.
Mhm.
There was like a flash of it because it felt like she could be so much meaner here than
Yeah.
she is and chooses not to. And I thought like, oh, maybe we're heading, and it's just like it's been such a 180. And another thing I'll point out in that regard that people have said on Reddit that like I didn't really catch because of the shock of the moment, but like when Lottie axes Edwin in the back of the head, they cut to Shauna and she looks about as happy as she's looked the entire season. She is she's got the biggest smile on her face. It's like
Wow.
Christmas morning and she got the thing that she's been wanting all
Wow.
year. Like it's
Wow.
crazy the shot.
Okay.
It's like the biggest smile. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
just for an example of Shauna's like I don't know, total lack of any sort of like reasonable level of empathy or care about anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, that like that's her reaction to that. Like, what?
Yeah, I need a roundup of the best gifts from this season.
Yeah.
Uh, that one sounds pretty enticing. You shared with me the one of
Misty throwing the bone over her shoulder saying he died of natural
yeah,
causes.
it's pretty great. Yeah.
Which is fucking great.
I mean,
Absolutely
the
love it.
internet has made such hay out of the moment from White Lotus of like, at
Oh yeah.
this age I can't live in without being rich with Parker Posey, and it's just
Yeah.
so good. I feel like I don't want the internet to excessively memeify Yellow Jackets, but it does seem like there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so the other two things I just wanted to say, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I do feel like this is the start of the rift that I think Melissa was referencing earlier, the adult version.
Yeah.
And also I think what could lead her to befriend Hannah and
Yeah.
like be allow Hannah to confide secrets into her that she doesn't share with anyone, and like all of that stuff, which like seemed weird to me, like from the way they portrayed her earlier in the season,
Yeah.
which was like so attached to Shauna, and also like attached to Shauna because she's so awful, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the way they framed it. And so it's like it's interesting to me that because I guess like because Shauna is more of our like A level character here, I would expect it to be the reverse. I would expect it to be Melissa descends into madness while Shauna pulls back and like recovers some humanity after like playing around with it a little
Yeah,
bit.
that seems like the thing that a normal show would do. Like if you need something to get escalated,
Yeah,
introduce some character so that you can just have them like absorb all of the dislike that
yeah,
it's going to foster from the
yeah,
audience. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Um, so there's that, and then yeah, and then we talked about it earlier, but just the weirdness of cutting the moss here. So like like you said, it really could be, and we did just come away from that scene with the eyeless guy. It really could be that they're just trying to say, remember the moss from earlier? Remember the moss?
Yeah.
This is like what she was thinking about, the moth thing, like But the weirdness is how she's transfixed by the moth there. And like by normal language, it seems like it's implying that she remembers the dream. Like that's really
It's
how it
yeah, that
looks.
is the way the visual language should work.
It's so weird. Like, why is she
So
so hypnotized by this moth if it's not because it's reminding her of this dream? It's like it's like a forward memory or something. It's very weird. I
yeah.
don't know how to take that.
Yeah, and I think moths, butterflies are a very overused metaphor for, undergoing a permanent transformation for the better. Like I love caterpillars, nothing against caterpillars, but the idea that you go through this chrysalis and you come out this butterfly, right?
Mhm.
Whereas a moth, they're associated with night, not today.
Yeah.
They're not thought of as being, they don't have the same associations of beauty and positive transformation. um you see them come up in horror and you think of like Mothman or whatever. So I don't know if it's just a sort of heavy-handed symbol of their experience in the wilderness has permanently transformed them into this somewhat sinister, creature of the night. That's kind of a ridiculous way to put it,
Are
but you know what I
they
mean? Do you know
vampires?
what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. I
So
do.
this so
The
that this
moths are a metaphor
idea,
for the Yellowjackets.
yeah, so that this suggestion of like, I want to get out of here and be a, just live a normal life, the same language that she uses
Yeah,
earlier in the episode as an adult.
yeah,
That it's this like symbol of, yeah, you can't go back to being a caterpillar.
right. Ah, yes, yes, yes. That makes sense.
But I don't know. We'll see.
That
I
makes
still also
sense.
sort of like my crackpot theory that moths are going to descend on their garden and kill it, and that's why they don't have any food in the winter. Because we still need to find out why they aren't going to have any food in the
We
winter.
do, we do. I agree with all of that. All right. Are you ready to continue? All right, so we go back to the present. Shauna is defending herself. Um, Melissa says that she didn't kill Lottie or do the checklist of doom. Shauna doesn't believe. Uh, Misty says, I'm sorry, Melissa suggests, no, Shauna, oh my God. I'm having trouble reading this. Okay. Melissa suggests that she should put the past behind her like she has. Shauna says this isn't normal. You don't get to have a normal life. Callie calls. Melissa asks who that is, asking if she knows what Shauna did slash is capable of. Shauna says she knows, but she still loves me. And Melissa says, who's lying now?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, Melissa does specifically deny the checklist of doom for what it's worth. So now the breaks in the freezer, they are what they are. And actually there's gonna be some more lines
Yeah,
about
there's
that
more lines.
later.
Yeah.
But like breaks in the freezer, like I was never convinced that anyone did that stuff on purpose. I mean, they gave us every reason to believe the breaks were not on purpose.
Yeah.
And with the freezer, it's
What do you mean
like,
the freezer just jammed?
yeah, there was nothing specific there. Now, with the phone, like I will acknowledge that, it's like obviously it's not necessarily connected to anything, and like I'm willing to accept that it's just a weird coincidence. Okay, but there's three things that bother me about it.
Thing number one.
So, well, okay, I shouldn't say that. There's one thing that bothers me about it, and then there's, two elements that I think distinguish it from the breaks in the freezer.
Okay.
So, specifically, uh, Melissa talks about being uh, like knowing about Natalie's funeral. I think this is suggesting that it was her in that bar
Yeah.
watching them earlier in the season.
Yeah.
That she was keeping an eye. She, went to the funeral or she lurked at the funeral or whatever, and she followed them after. And, it's the same hair we see later when she drops off the tape, which she's admitted doing, right? So, like, there's just for the audience, there's a thread there of at least you could read it as like stalking Shauna or following Shauna or something.
Yeah, it's horseshit for her to be like, you should move on like I have. Really, if you've moved on, how do you know so much about Lottie's camp?
Yeah.
Why were you lurking at the bar where we went after the funeral?
Yeah, I
Like,
didn't even acknowledge that point because I have no answer for that. I don't think there is a good answer for that. I just got obsessed with how she doesn't know who Kevin Tan is. But
yeah.
anyway, I do think it's a valid point. And like you said, my answer is that she watches the show because sometimes it's the only answer that makes any sense. They just need to know stuff because like we saw it, so why don't they know it? We can't
Mhm.
do the work to actually explain why she would know any of that. Because the official story that the world heard was that Natalie overdosed and Kevin Tan was killed because he was revealed to be a crooked cop. And like none of that shit has anything to do with the Yellow Jackets specifically as a team or like doing a sacrifice or anything like that,
Yeah.
right? That no one should know about that unless they were actually there and they saw what happened. Or she's been like questioning people, you know, like how else? She went to see Lisa. Like I don't have any other reason like why, I mean, I don't even know how much Lisa knows. She didn't show up until like the last minute. So anyway,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay. Right. So yeah, the thing I was gonna say is that even though like I am perfectly willing to accept that the phone's not a thing. I mean, I think with Picture of the Wilderness combined with Queen of Hearts combined with turning the lights off
Um,
when you like someone is in there, or if you don't, you at least know someone could be in there.
I feel like we have this debate
It's weird
every
to leave her
episode.
phone. and
Uh-huh.
and so anyway, like I
Sure.
just think no, I'm not saying there is. It
Mhm.
absolutely doesn't have to mean anything, but like there's more to grab onto there than with the breaks of freezer.
Sure.
So like
Okay.
to me, like that was a more plausible story that it could have meant something than the other two, even if it turns out that it didn't, and it does seem like it didn't.
Mhm.
Okay, my final thing I want to say about that is I am still hung up on the thing they ended the episode on, the first one, where Shauna calls the bar back to ask about the phone, or is the second episode? Anyway,
Yeah.
Shauna calls him back. We get this crazy like back and forth cut with Melissa, right? Which here we are,
Mhm.
right? And who picked up the phone? What did they look like?
I
Right?
know.
That's what we end
I
on. We end
know.
on that point. I'm sorry I keep bringing it up,
No, but
but like
yeah.
it's like if you end an episode on a line that's as provocative as that,
Yeah.
you owe us something,
You
all
owe
right?
us.
How long
You owe us.
how long will it take to train an army? It's like it's not unheard of in TV to end an episode on a punchline and then do nothing with
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
So
Shows live to write checks that they ain't ready to cash.
I'm not saying that they have to. I'm just saying it bugs me when they
Yeah.
do
I
this
agree. It's
because they
annoying.
get me buying into something, and it's like if Shauna doesn't bring it up here, which she doesn't, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
then she's never gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
This was the only time it made any sense to bring it
This
up.
is when it should have happened.
So it's like if you're not even gonna talk about it, then I'm like, it feels like the show didn't even give a shit that she did that call, and they were just trying to like get us excited.
Just
But
chivvy
they
up some drama.
yeah, but they had no intention of actually following it up with anything. And
Yeah.
it's weird if Shauna got because it's just the time to say it.
I
Because it's like
know.
if she was told, oh, it was, whatever, like it was a short brunette or something, then it's like, okay, well then it obviously wasn't Melissa,
Yeah.
like
Was it Hillary Swank type?
yeah,
No, he was the spitting image of Morgan Freeman.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like if because like we saw with the brakes, she goes to the mechanic, and the mechanic specifically says, "Nah, no one tampered with your brakes,"
Yeah.
right? But it's like she's still. The point is, she's still sticking to that. I just feel like they should tell us that she was told something else, but she doesn't believe it, or she thinks, "Oh, you probably sent someone else to pick up the phone for you," or whatever. Like they don't have to do that much with it, but it just annoys me to like not even acknowledge it. Like I just anyway,
Yeah.
I'm so all right, I had to say it.
Yeah,
I
I
will move on now,
understand.
but I had to get it out.
I understand.
All right. All right. I'm relaxing now.
Wow.
All right. Does Callie really not love Shauna? Do you think that's true?
Well, it's already a lie that she doesn't know what happened. I mean, I don't like to answer questions like, does this child love their parent? Because I don't think there's a simple yes or no answer to that. But we, the viewer, know that Callie doesn't know the extent of what happened in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And uh and whatever she does know about what happened in the wilderness, she doesn't know from Shauna. So Shauna doesn't know whether she loves her in spite of that. Whereas Shauna does know that Jeff knows much of what happened in the
More.
wilderness
Yeah.
and loves her anyway.
Yeah.
So she is lying. Like regardless of whether Callie answer, like I just, does any teenage girl love her mom? Like it's not, I don't think that's the question. I
Well,
think she can be lying either way.
I only ask it in the sense of where we're going this season with Callie.
Well, I would, yeah. I mean, where are we going this season with Callie, and how does that relate to her feelings of loyalty to her mom? I think is maybe more interesting of a question.
I mean, that's really what I had in mind. Like, I agree that, like, yeah, the actual, but it's like, to me, it's a shorthand for, like, yeah, how loyal is Callie to Shauna? What does she do? Because, like, I think there's mixed signals on that. And I'm not really sure what to think
Yeah,
about
I
that.
think she's very conflicted. I think she feels extremely
Yeah,
conflicted, especially because she sees the impact that it's having on her dad. So she's in a position where
yeah,
she and Jeff are, but I think especially Jeff, and we have more on this coming up soon, are,
yep. Next scene.
sort of suffering because of Shauna's persistent refusal to let them in, to be honest with them,
Yep.
and layered on top of the concrete consequences of what happened in the wilderness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's quite an episode in that regard, and this arc between the two of them this season, I mean, it's been on its way from, I mean, this was always, the relationship between the two of them was a significant one since the very beginning. But since the moment when Callie got, when Jeff took Callie to Lottie's retreat center, and
Mhm.
then they saw each other, and then that relationship, and then yeah, we're headed towards some reveals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was also like Shauna telling her she killed Adam Martin, and
Yeah.
that whole thing, which is like,
Yeah, and then she's like, she won't tell her anything else.
yeah, it's like, it's not nothing to like murder someone who's innocent, but it is true that in the scheme of what Shauna did and went through, like
Yeah.
it's actually
It
like
was a horrible misunderstanding.
it's like a
It,
minor blip in a
yeah,
way.
it was a horrible misunderstanding that ended in tragedy. And yes, of course, I hold her responsible.
Per se.
Yeah, that, like, it wasn't murder per se. Like that's bogus. But it's, yeah, as you're saying, it's nothing compared to some of the other things that she did.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Are
Yeah.
you ready to continue?
Yes, I
All
am.
right. So Callie is leaving a message for Shauna saying, "You're breaking dad. Call back." Jeff is
It's all.
Jeff,
She is. She's breaking him.
Jeff is leaving messages for Misty and freaks out. Callie tells him to pull it together. Callie suggests that no one is, quote, after mom. Jeff agrees, but wonders why she thinks that. And she does the reverse. He says, mentioning the breaks and so on, that they were jumping to conclusions, and then asks about Callie. And Callie says, it's just a feeling. She thinks the wilderness messed them up. And then she says, whatever happened to Lottie, it doesn't have anything to do with us. Jeff agrees and says, get your stuff, we're going home. And she agrees and goes. And that's where we end that scene. Because did
Yes.
they really need to come to the
So
hotel at all? Like, it's not clear that they did.
so I this is the scene, this is the moment that, like, whatever happened to Lottie doesn't have anything to do with us. The way she delivers that line is what makes me feel strongly that Callie is responsible for Lottie's death, either deliberate or accidental. Um, and the way that she says early on that it's just a feeling. So I think you might have pointed out earlier that in the past storyline, there's this whole thing of like, there's a feeling. They have this feeling.
Doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel
Yeah.
right thing.
Yeah.
Which maybe they wanted to create a little connection there, but I think she's hiding something, possibly because she found that note and she read it, and so who knows what all she said. And that is something that Shauna should be wondering, like, okay, if you are telling the truth, Melissa, and
Yeah.
you wrote a letter and I didn't get it, it was intercepted by someone, probably my daughter, what did it say in
Yeah.
it?
She should absolutely think that. Yeah.
And, to that point, that might connect with the way that Melissa, asks her, does your daughter know what if Melissa is hardcore watching them, then she may even know that it was Callie who got the tape. Like, maybe she was just lurking in the bushes, saw Callie get it, knows what teenage girls are like. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think she was lurking actually, and I think she might have seen. My point was just that she doesn't know what Kelly did after that, and
Yeah,
and
but
she knows that Shauna showed up,
yeah,
so she knows that she got the tape.
she knows that the Shauna got the
So
tape.
like for all she knows, she should have gotten the note. Like so that's what I'm saying. Like that's part of why I believe the note because again, unless you watch the show like she did in season 2, she really shouldn't know that like Callie withheld the note if that's really what happened.
I'm just saying that Melissa knows what was in that note, and assuming there was a note.
Yeah.
And so if she sees that Callie got the envelope, she might wonder if, being a teenage girl, she looked at the contents of the envelope before giving it to her mom.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
In which case it could have, so like, we, the viewer, don't yet know what was in that letter.
Yeah, it's true.
And so if there was something in that letter that, yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I 100% know what you're saying. And yeah, I think it's valid. And yeah, in a way, I think it's weird that it doesn't come up here, but maybe they're just saving it.
I think they're saving it.
Um,
I think it's going to be something pretty explosive.
yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this Lottie thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things I want to mention. I mean, obviously, I think there's various possibilities. I'm not convinced yet that Lottie was actually murdered and that it wasn't just some kind of assisted suicide or whatever you want to call it kind of deal. Even if it involved Callie and or the bad one. I'm holding out for the bad one too. I feel like she could have been there too. I think there's room for that, and I'll talk about that more later. But nonetheless, I think it's the fact that she says whatever happened to Lottie, it doesn't have anything to do with us,
Who's us?
as opposed to it doesn't have anything to do with
Mom.
mom.
Yeah.
Right? She could have said that. She says she doesn't think anyone is, quote, after mom, where she could have said, I don't think anyone is after us because Shauna said someone's trying to kill us. And then, when they got to the hotel, she's like, well, I'm marked for death. I want to know more about that. Right? That whole thing I was complaining about.
Yeah.
Right? So I just, to me, it's notable that she says this. And this is one of the reasons that makes me think that if she was involved in Lottie's death, it wasn't about murdering her.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would have to do with us, because that would be you doing the murder. So anyway, that's where I'm leaning on that. Okay, so just for a couple of technicalities, the DNA has to be dealt with. I think your point that they could absolutely bullshit their way through and say, well, it was a match, but it was Callie because she's your daughter, and that's why. That's there. There's no denying it, and I'm ready to believe that they'll say that. Even if, like, in real life, if you do a DNA test, you can tell the difference between a parent and a child. And Walter would know that, and he could know that it wasn't fucking Shauna, it was someone related to Shauna. And if he said that, that would have been too big of a giveaway, and that's why he didn't say that. I feel like that's what's going on there. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say is the reason why I ruled out Callie is because what happened was Shauna comes home And she tells Jeff that Lottie was murdered. And Callie overhears this
Uh,
and then freaks out and gives him a tape, gives her the tape, right? So, like, if she knows what happened to Lottie, then why would that trigger this response? Like,
yeah,
there's something
that's a
weird about that to
that's a
me.
good point.
So yeah, that's the thing. I like when I was thinking through. I'm like, why did I roll out Callie? That was the scene where I was like, okay, this makes it seem like she doesn't know what happened to Lottie.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remain convinced that we will get. I remain convinced that something happened between Callie and Lottie in that period of time. Man, Lottie was so busy.
She was real busy. She had a
Um,
lot to do.
oh, and we're gonna find it out. You know,
Yeah,
we're
it's
gonna find
clearly
out.
something they're building
Yeah.
towards, like what actually, and it's possible that actually Callie wasn't involved in her death, but met her, and then whatever. There's all sorts of ways they could go with that. But what I was gonna say is like that's the reason I ruled her out. But
Mm-hmm.
the introduction of the note here and the idea that she was still holding something back potentially
Mm,
does leave room for like I don't know what she was thinking, but they could definitely try to give us some kind of explanation for why it made sense to her to upon hearing that they know about Lottie's death, that's the time to give the tape, but not the note. I don't know. It seems
yeah.
elaborate to me, but
Yeah.
it's like just because there is a little wrinkle in that, if they hadn't told us about the note, I would still be stuck on, yeah, but why did she like give him the tape because Lottie was murdered? Like, if she knows what happened, like that makes no sense to me. So, anyway,
Yeah.
there's some wiggle room there, but it feels like either we're headed for a bad explanation or it's going to be something kind of convoluted
Yeah, well, both have
or
been
both.
known to happen. Yeah, they could it could be something that ticks both of those boxes.
But yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. We'll see. I do think something's going on with Callie for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we gotta learn what that is. So whether it's
Mhm.
she wasn't involved with Lottie at all, she's just saying this because it's what she's like, you know, like Lisa saying, Lottie fell down the stairs, like, why are you investigating this? It's that, and but she is still holding back the note, and that's her secret. I think there's multiple ways they could go with this, but
Yeah.
anyway, I think
Yeah.
she is hiding something. And I think there's a decent chance it has to do with Lottie, since obviously we were set up for a connection between them, and there has been no mention of that since then. And
Yeah.
that is the biggest conspicuous element here that makes me think there is something there.
Yeah.
Because in a mystery, if they don't talk about something for a long time, you gotta focus on that. So just take
Yeah.
hints, look at it. All right, look at
Look at it.
it. All right, you ready to continue?
Yeah.
All right, so go back to the past. We got a packing, happy montage. We follow Aquila smiling quietly to herself in a stream. But then as she's going back to the camp, she sees dead plants, and then she goes into the animal pen, and all the animals are dead. And she freaks out, but Lottie breaks her out of it. And the animals are actually okay. And Akila verifies that the animals are okay, and Lottie agrees, but realizes that Akila saw something. So, anyway,
Pop, pop, pop.
here's that. It's interesting that
Yes.
she sort of made her turn before this, and then they have this happen.
Yeah, so
But
this feels like potentially a legit vision.
it could be. It could be some kind of foreshadowing.
Not like a huff and cave fumes. It also reminds me of the line that you emphasized earlier of Melissa saying that she was having nightmares during the day.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that with Shauna as well when she sees the
The moth.
moth thing. That it's
Yeah.
like it feels like there's something they're trying to
Speaking
say
of
something
items.
there
Yeah.
about their state of mind at the very least. Um, but yeah. Okay. So the thing I was gonna say, like, just spitballing here, the simplest because if it is true, I mean, again, I'm skeptical that this is real vision of the future because you know me, that's where I stand on this.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it is a thing that could happen. And just because you think, oh no, what if this happened and then it does happen doesn't mean that you really predicted it. It's just something that makes sense to fear in
Yeah.
this context. So anyway, just throwing it out there, like one scenario I could imagine is that like Cody escapes and like goes rogue and like tries to like ruin their food supply.
Yeah, so I kept thinking Ben was going to somehow ruin their food supply. Another possibility is they go some for some reason they do end up leaving this camp for a while, and then they can't find it again,
Mm-hmm.
and it all just dies. But I don't know. But I was also looking, and the animals weren't bloody. Um, or it didn't look bloody to me.
I thought I saw a little blood, but I would agree that I wouldn't describe them as bloody for what it's worth.
So I don't know, some kind of disease or
That's the other thing I was thinking. Like maybe, yeah, they just all get sick, or and you know they could have some pseudoscience. Even Hannah's like, oh yeah, there's like blah blah blah. I don't know what you
yeah.
say exactly, but like these environments aren't good for these type of animals, and normally they would be blah
Yeah,
blah blah,
I
but you're
know.
keeping them in a pen, so they can't do that. I don't know, some
That's
shit like that.
Yeah, I hate it. Thank you, I hate it.
Well, sorry. That's just the kind of thing I could see the show
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, they had like 50 birds fly into a roof
Yeah,
for a
this
bullshit
thing,
explanation.
well, right. This thing about they think that there's this theory that the Salem witch trials happened because people ate this grain that had like uh some kind of bacteria in it or something that like made them crazy
Ah,
and paranoid. What
turns
is
you
the
into a witch.
No, no.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to take it there.
What is it?
I know
What
that's
is
not
what
what
is
you
the
meant.
green? Orange. What is it?
Oh,
Barley?
barley.
Is it
Yeah,
barley?
I think so.
Anyway, um, yeah, I don't know. So like, I'm imagining that like, oh yeah, that grain you've been feeding the animals, it must have had that particular fungus in it, and it made them go crazy and die. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it could be that. It's just like you know, like we have these lines about Melissa forming a bond with Hannah, which implies some amount of time. And we also have, we killed Hannah, but like no one has said shit about what happened to Cody.
right.
So it's just conspicuous to me, and therefore there's more room there, I think, for other things, including escape and sabotage. And so I just think like that's like a simple way to get there
Yeah,
if they want.
yeah,
So anyway, but it doesn't have to be that. Like you said, it could totally be the other thing, and they're just gonna kill Cody. I do feel like if he doesn't try to escape, it doesn't feel consistent with his character.
yeah. He really
But
should try to escape, but
that doesn't
yeah,
mean he's gonna succeed.
he was fishy.
He
But
was fishy. There was the weird name thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know what we're supposed to think. I brought that up, and like, there's nothing about it in this episode, so I don't know where to take that. But we'll see. We're gonna continue here. Okay, you ready to?
yes.
All right. So Natalie goes to the plane. We see they crossed out, gone to lake, and now it says gone deeper. Natalie is dropping off Coach Ben. I guess she's doing like what she did with Jackie. Like that's the idea. Like bring the bones to the plane. Even though like the rationale back then was it's too the ground is too hard to bury her, and we'll do it later. And now, like, they just buried Edwin, so obviously that's not the case. But she's just doing. I don't know. I don't know why she's doing this, but
Yeah,
anyway,
like if they find his leg here outside and his severed head inside the plane, then they won't go looking for the rest of his body. They'll just go for the easy win.
that was a wild, wild plane crash.
Wow.
Um,
Wow, the FAA is going to be studying this one for years.
anyway, she says goodbye and says she's sorry he didn't make it to this point. And then she hears a noise outside the plane, and she tells it that we are going home, we're leaving you behind.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And like, I don't want to make too much of this. I think I more or less get what they're doing here, but it was a little striking to me that in the similar scene in season two, which involved Jackie's bones, who they also ate, when she goes out there, she sees the moose,
Yeah.
you know? And it just seems to me like this is an indication. I mean, maybe she didn't think that back then, but nonetheless, it feels like this is like a development of a similar idea, that like that's part of what was going on there, is like some kind of building towards like viewing this as the spirit of the wilderness, like I don't know what, warning her, saying you can't go home. I don't know exactly what. It's all pretty vague here.
Yeah.
Like what we're supposed to think about this. But like it works dramatically, but like practically it does seem like a weird scene, so I don't really know what to do with it. All right, ready to continue?
Yeah.
Okay, so we go back to the present. Ty stands outside Van's room, then walks in, locking the door. Outside, real Ty or regular Ty or whatever asks to come in, but the bad one says she's the only one who can help Van. Real Ty won't do what needs to be done, saying she never did believe. And Ty, the real one, begs to be let in to no veil. So, okay, here's where I'm gonna throw some thoughts. Obviously, I don't know what's gonna happen here, and you know, usually when I think of like, here's what the obvious thing is, I'm wrong because they don't want to do that thing. But anyway, here's what I think the obvious thing is. To me, the obvious thing is um, she's actually gonna do like something like an assisted suicide or some kind of mercy killing for Van because she's suffering. And
Oh.
so I was thinking that maybe because she locks herself in Van's room, no one else is there. So like to me, like it makes sense that like that's a path they could go down. And then if they wanted to, they could connect it to what happened with Lottie. Like maybe the bad one could do what needed to be done with Lottie as well. And so like regular Ty doesn't
Hmm.
even remember what happened there,
Hmm.
and she's like carrying that around. But like she was there, maybe Callie was there too, like I said. Maybe they both were involved. Who knows? Maybe she wanted Callie to do it, but she couldn't, so the bad one stepped in. I don't know. There's all sorts of possibilities. But that was my thought watching this. That like, what needs to be done here where you're locking yourself in Van's room, bad one? And that's the only thing that makes any sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, that's well reasoned.
Thank you.
But
That's all I want.
I hate
You
it.
don't have to agree, but
And my guess was either one of two things. One is like it doesn't really make any sense for her to lock that door. It's just for drama. And we're gonna see her like leave that room again. That it's just like symbolic of like locking the
the
door of
other
her
part of herself.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that.
So that was one interpretation. The other was there's some nurse or doctor in there, we just don't see them, but someone actually healthy in
And they're
there.
gonna kill it.
And
She's
they're
gonna
gonna
kill
and she's
that
gonna kill,
person.
yeah.
It could be that too, for
And then
sure.
like kidnap Van and just flee the
Yeah,
scene.
it could be that.
Because I don't think that it's actually like in keeping with the bad one to mercy kill someone. Because that's not an evil act.
Yeah, I guess like okay. Yeah, I mean it requires contortions.
It's just not, and it just doesn't fit with the theme, which is like I can help her by killing someone in order to please the
Yeah,
wilderness god so that she
yeah,
heals.
yeah.
Like that's what they've been telling us all season, that mindset ought to subscribe to.
But like wrapped up. Okay, here's my attempt to contort. Wrapped up in the idea of like she's gonna do this is at least some degree of like caring about Van. Because like the bad one could do anything she wants, right? Like why does she feel the need to kill people for Van? You know? Like there is some implied there, like some kind of particular concern for Van and her well-being.
Mhm.
And so like I feel like you could stretch that into it's actually hopeless now. The best thing for Van now is to die without suffering more. Like that would be my case for the bad one doing it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have to be true, but that's what I got.
Yeah, I don't buy that the show wants us to think. I don't buy that the show wants us to associate uh like facilitating a comfortable death with the actions of the bad one.
That's fair. I guess I should say the other thing is like I'm like, well, if this was also linked to Lottie's death, that would be a way to tie the two together. And it's like
Yeah.
part of me is like wanting to make that work.
Well,
So
so I really don't want the answer to be that the bad one is like killing off the remaining
the name Dr.
Yellowjackets.
Kevorkian.
Yeah, or whatever, but like there's that thing that Shauna says in this episode of, the only way to be safe is to be the last one still alive. Um, but I think it's just a lame answer if it's like, yeah, the bad one is doing that. The bad one is like picking them off one by one. Cause like it's just not interesting.
Yeah, I don't that's why I'm trying not
No,
to.
just like so the bad one goes and kills Lottie and then goes and kills Van.
Right.
And then like, okay, and then what happens next
But
season?
that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to make it not that,
Yeah.
but she's still involved in both deaths,
Uh-huh.
but it's not that she's gonna then go after Misty and
Yeah,
go
yeah.
after Shauna, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to make it that they were like Lottie was
Yeah.
asking for it and she just determines that this is the best thing for Van, you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll
That's how I'm
see.
trying to sell it where it's not because I agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
I don't even know that it's what I'm saying, of course. Like what I'm saying could be totally wrong, but I find what I'm saying more believable
I
than
mean,
you're
I get the
suggesting.
logic. I just I don't I hope they don't go that direction.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't I guess to me it depends on how they do it, but we'll see. I'm not inherently against the idea, but it does depend on how they do it. Okay. Next scene. All right,
Next.
so we go. Hold on, let me just check here. Yeah. So we go back to the past. They're all preparing to leave. Nat tells Cody and Hannah that they will kill them if they try anything. Cody understands, and Hannah agrees as well. They are about to leave, but Lottie's staying. Nat tries to convince her, but Lottie says that's not home. She can't go back. If she goes back, nothing will be. She won't be well. She won't be herself, who was made out there. She thinks that they are safer out there. Natalie gives up, saying, Stay then. At this point, Shauna looks at Lottie and says, She's staying too, but not because of Lottie or it. She doesn't know why. She says, Something doesn't feel right. And then Ty puts her stuff down as well. Ty agrees that she's been feeling something since Cody and Hannah arrived. Van tries to talk her out of it, but Ty says something doesn't feel right. Travis says not getting rescued doesn't feel right. It's like, thank you. Thank you. And Natalie says, okay, stay then. The rest of us are going. But Shauna says, no, you're not. And that's where we leave the past storyline this episode.
Woof.
All right. So yeah, I emphasize that line because like I said, like that came up earlier and then like they're leaning on this at the end. Something doesn't feel right. And it's like it's such a vague idea. Like I don't
It is, but the guy who got axed in the head also felt like there was something up with Cody. And so, they play it like he's maybe just jealous of Cody. But I don't know, it raises some questions.
So do you think when they say something doesn't feel right, what they're implying is that I mean, I don't think Lottie thinks this, but at least for Shauna and Ty, I could be convinced that they believe that Cody's gonna lead them into a trap or
I
something.
don't think that they even have a conscious idea of what doesn't feel right, or else they would
Okay.
have said, I don't trust this guy.
What I
I
just
think they are
yeah.
just picking up on something about I'm just saying it's possible that he was going to lead them into the trap, that he isn't who he appears to be, that he doesn't know how to get back and he's planning to trick them or something like that, but that they're just picking up on something and they don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel right. Like, I really am a strong believer in the power of intuition. That makes me sound like I'm a psychic or something. I don't call 900 numbers to talk to Madame Cleo. But I think that intuition is a powerful thing, and I do think it's possible that they're all just picking up on something that is legitimate. But Lottie is on her own
Lottie's in a
wavelength.
different world for sure. But Lottie didn't even say something doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
She has a
she's
different explanation.
yeah,
I'm sure she would agree that something doesn't feel right about leaving, but like that's not really her reason. So
yeah,
anyway. But yeah, like since like, well, Shauna, meh, but like she at least has some degree of a rational brain and like Ty definitely does. So it's like, if they're gonna put all this weight on it to bail out on a rescue thing, like that's a lot. And then like not only is Shauna like something doesn't feel right, I'm not going.
yeah.
Shauna's like something doesn't feel right.
You
None of
can't
you are
go.
going.
Yeah,
And I'm just
that's
like,
next level.
who are you to say that?
Yeah,
Like, you don't get to decide how we feel about that. What if we don't think? What if, like Travis said, what doesn't feel right is not getting rescued? How about
yeah,
that? What if that's not? Why is your feeling that something doesn't feel right more valid than
yeah,
our feeling that it does feel right to try to get rescued? Like, it's bullshit. And also, I'm thinking, what you gonna do? Like, she can't stop them from leaving. So I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck is her plan? Is she gonna like hold someone hostage and threaten it? Like what exactly is she gonna do to hold him there? Because like physically, there's no way she can stop them from leaving. You know, like
yeah,
even if Ty and Lottie help, the three of them together could not stop that entire group from leaving if they want to leave.
yeah.
So it's just like, what, like, what are you trying to do? And it's like, are they just going to agree because, quote, she's the leader? Like, what? Because we know they're not going to get rescued, right? Like, that's predetermined. So are they going to go and then, like, regret it? Is like, like, how is this confrontation going to be resolved? Because it's just like, it just feels like such a nothing threat. Like, okay, now what? What? We're walking away. What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do to stop me, Coach?
Yeah,
Like, what's the plan?
yeah.
Like, it's bullshit. Like, I don't know. I'm really curious, like how they get out of this, because it just seems like such a dead end scene, but they end it here, so it makes it seem like it will matter for some reason. And it's just like, will like enough of them be convinced by Shauna that like now they can't overpower them anymore? I don't know.
These are good
I
questions.
don't know. There's something, yeah, there's something weird about this. Um, yeah, right. Ty said she's been feeling something since they arrived. And it's like what, like, it's like I just wish they'd be more concrete about this. I want to know, like, what exactly are you worried about? It's fine if you want to say we don't belong back there. We're bet the stuff Lottie said, which like I don't agree with, but it's like I get it, it's valid.
Yeah.
But just hanging it on and like, there's been something weird. I don't know. Let's not get rescued. Like it just seems like I don't know. I'm on the side of like if I were there, I'd be like, fuck that. Let's go. Y'all stay if you want.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the next scene is, or if they even just fast forward so that they don't have to deal with
Deal with
the
it. Yeah.
immediate fallout of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just yeah. I don't know. Okay. Are you ready to continue?
Yeah.
All right. So Jeff goes to check out. There's a bit of banter with the what do you call these people? I couldn't come up with a good name. The people who work at the front desk of a hotel.
Uh, I
I put front desk person,
there you
but like
go.
I
Clerk?
clerk, front
Clerk?
desk clerk. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. That's good. Like Jeff makes her day. She's very pleased when he walks away. They
Uh-huh.
have like a fun little interaction, and he's like, "Thanks, Tanya," and she's like,
Yeah.
"Have a good day, sir." And it's just like they're making a
Peak
point
Jeff.
that like yeah that they kind of highlight later. Like I didn't the first time we watched this, I didn't get what the point of this was, but the second time I was like, oh, they're making a point about Jeff specifically here.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Joels come in. Jeff goes over and makes another pitch saying Shauna is unhinged, but he's not. He's affable.
Yeah.
Which that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he says, haven't you ever fallen in love with an unhinged woman, or has every woman you've ever been with been fucking boring? Callie watches. Jeff makes the final pitch, and they exit. So yeah, so they're leaving the hotel and yeah, I feel like this is it's a point that's been like hovering around the whole season. There was that line that I keep bringing up that Shauna said like what would happen at her funeral, her husband blossomed after her death.
Yeah.
There was when they go to the home where Misty works and like Jeff gets in there and like everybody's just fucking loving it.
Yeah.
They can't get enough.
Yeah.
He's just spreading joy all around. And then we get another scene here with this front desk clerk where he does the same thing. Like she's clearly just like it brings her a bit of like delight in an seemingly otherwise like dull sort of situation to have someone come up and like talk about how like oh we used to have to check out and now it doesn't really mean anything anymore and blah 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 and
Yeah.
there's a joke about how we don't have mini bars and like
Mhm.
it's this little thing. Anyway, we're still on the whole like did they furnish like are they going to refurnish like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing is still weird to
Uh-huh.
me. And then yeah, and then this other thing that I think is supposed to help us understand like why Jeff isn't is still with Shauna basically.
Yeah.
You know, like what exactly,
Yeah, like, yeah,
because
she's crazy, but I'm in love with her.
yeah, and
And
also like
crazy and interesting is better than boring.
exactly framing it as like, well, okay, sure, she's unhinged, but she ain't boring.
Yeah.
you know so it's like there is some upside of it to him and so like I think that helps I don't know to like sort of bridge that gap where this character who really is so different from how Shauna is um as illustrated in numerous scenes would do that. So anyway, that's where we end things with that. Are you ready for the final scene?
Final scene.
Okay, so Melissa pokes some holes in the checklist of doom. I won't enumerate them, they're all pretty obvious. And then she says that Shauna creates her own problems just to feel alive, bringing up the thing with Jeff before the crash. And she says that Shauna hates herself and wants to make everyone else miserable. And then Melissa gets up for water and asks Shauna what her plan was, suggesting that she wants to explode her own life just to watch it burn. And then Shauna suddenly cuts Melissa, pushing her down, punches her multiple times. Melissa headbutts her back, causing her to bleed from the nose. And then Shauna takes a bite out of Melissa's arm and takes the chunk out of her mouth and tells Melissa to eat it, or I'll fucking tell your family exactly who you really are. And
Yeah. Yeah.
thoughts, comments,
Yeah.
concerns.
Well, quick point. You didn't mention this, but I believe Melissa goes for the knife first. Melissa goes to set the water.
Was it supposed to be that she went for the knife? It didn't look
That
that
was
way to
that
me,
was my
but okay.
interpretation because Shauna says that she doesn't want water. Melissa gets her water anyway, so that she has the pretext to get close enough to grab. So she sets her water down, setting her water down, grabs for the
She's
knife,
grabbing for the knife.
and then
Okay.
but Shauna gets the jump on her.
I didn't really see it. It was so quick. It looked to me like Shauna just decided to cut her right then, and I was ready to believe it because that's how Shauna's been this
Well, Shauna's
season.
pretty nuts.
But okay, okay. If what you're saying is true, then it's less unprovoked than I thought.
But
Because it really came off to me like she was just like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna start cutting your ass."
this eat your own arm chunk thing is pretty next level.
It's a lot, and it recalls when she was biting Mari in the first episode of the season. You know,
Yeah,
it's like there's a through line there of like biting people as a form of aggression.
toddlers have
Um,
mastered it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so the thing I wanted to say is that yeah, I got two things to say. So the first thing I want to say is like this is a thing that TV shows do sometimes. And I don't know if we're supposed to think this is real, you know, if we're just supposed to take Melissa's framing of Shauna at face value and think like this is true, or if we're supposed to think, well, this is just what Melissa thinks. We don't have to really believe this, blah blah blah. There's a lot of ways, but nonetheless, like I've seen a lot of TV shows where they kind of do this thing where, like, you know, a character is around for a while, they do some stuff, we watch them do the stuff, and then, like, at a certain point, the show kind of steps in and they try to like give a framework for understanding like why did the character do those things, why are they like this, you know. And so I mean I feel like this is their attempt, and you know I think like there is a logic to saying that, you know, the thing with Adam Martin is an example of, how does she say it, wanting to explode her own life just to watch it burn, you know, that like
Yeah,
there she was flirting with disaster that whole time,
yeah, yeah,
you know. And like it didn't really feel that way because they also, there was also this context of she thought Jeff was having an affair, and like so you're kind of more on her side in that scenario, you know. But it seems to me like they're trying to like recontextualize what's going on there. And then obviously there was the stuff with the van getting stolen and going to threaten the guy, and you know that happens in season two, and then this season, you know, has been the most unhinged Sean has ever been, really. Not necessarily adult Shauna being violent until this point, but nonetheless like hurling accusations and just like, you know, doing stuff that it, you know, just seems like yeah, like she wants to provoke something,
yeah,
you know. Like I think there's a logic to that, and yet I just didn't really think about it. So it's just like it's like the show telling you how to think about a character, and like
yeah,
it always bothers me a little bit because I'm like, that's not exact. Like, I'm not saying there's nothing there, but I'm also not convinced that's all that's there. So anyway, like
yeah,
it's sometimes a show decides here's the thing, and they really stick to it, and it's like from then on like that's the character, that's like the way you should think about them. And like I kind of hope they're not doing that, but it's been a rough ride, so
yeah,
I'm not really sure at this point. um so I just wanted to say that, and then this is the other thing, like like, okay, so like what Shauna does here, I mean, it's like it's totally it's totally ridiculous, and so on. But it's like, Melissa, um, you just said earlier, what was it? You scared the shit out of me or whatever, and you dropped the tape at Shauna's house,
Yeah.
knowing that she's like this, and now you're in this situation. Like, how did you not think this was a risk? Like, that's fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like
I mean, is
baffled.
there another shoe that's gonna drop like Alex? This was a whole plan to lure Shauna here, and Alex does know about the tape and knows who she is, and she's going and dropping the kid off, and she's coming back.
All I can say is, like, I didn't think that, but all I can say is I hope you're right, because it feels like there's just something that doesn't add up here. With, like, if you really believe that, then what the fuck are you doing? Like, send it to
Yeah.
Thaisa, send it to Misty, send it to Lottie, like anyone rather than Sean. Like,
Yeah.
God, like, look where it ended
Yeah, but
up.
it's like she's got this background with Shauna.
True, true.
So
But the background seems like it, you know, ended up in a place of total separation and mistrust and
yeah.
so on. So it's just like,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
you know, like, I don't know, like, to me, like, that's really weird. It sort of made more sense earlier, before they told us that there was this rift later,
Yeah.
because I didn't think that earlier, and so, like, it made more
Yeah.
sense. I don't know, so maybe it's this thing where it felt like it makes sense earlier, but now that we're at this point, it no longer does, and like, that's
But
just
they're
how it
locked in.
is.
Yeah.
That's just the TV writing trap that happens
Well, it's like
sometimes.
she never had a relationship with the others.
Right,
So,
right, right. There is that, but then there's
but
destroying it.
it still just doesn't make sense why she sent the tape.
It doesn't. I mean, I think ultimately it has to be a contrivance, because if she just destroyed the tape, there's no plot.
Right.
So you just don't even,
Yeah.
have that happening. I don't suspect her of being involved with Lottie, for what it's worth,
Yeah.
even though it's possible. Like, it's not like we know for sure. I just I don't know. My something doesn't feel right about that to me, shall we say.
See? See how useful that is?
It's it's not ringing true to my ears that it's gonna be that. I feel like we're heading for the Cali thing, the Badwood thing, or both. That's my expectation going forward with that. I still think there's some extra element they haven't told us, but um that's what I'm expecting. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I have to say about that
Well, we
scene.
just have two more episodes and then we'll have all of our
We're gonna know
answers.
everything there is to know in the world. All right, well, until next time.
Buzz,
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 buzz, buzz.
buzz.